lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, guys, welcome to episode number 304 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, March the 7th, 2026, and my name is Jeremy Lee. Guys, a few quick announcements before we get started. Tomorrow night, the Fanatics Collect Weekly Auction Watch Party is back here on the channel. Leighton Sheldon is currently at the Philly Card Show. He's always buying collections. You can reach out to Leighton at justcollect.com. He will not be joining us here tonight. Speaking of card shows, the next episode of From the Front Row with Dan Bliss, founder of the Front Row Card Show, is on Monday, March the 16th at 7 p.m. Pacific here on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. We will be giving away a pair of VIP tickets to their inaugural 400-table Atlanta show taking place at the end of this month, March 28th to 29th. So tune into that show on March the 16th. Also watch my Instagram account and the Front Row Card Show account for a second giveaway for a pair of VIP tickets to the show. Don't forget, 2 weeks later is the Seattle Tacoma 480 table show, April 11th to 12th. Visit frontrowcardshow.com for more show dates and locations. And guys, CIA Auctions, Collector Investor Auctions, March auction is now up and running. Runs from the 5th up until March the 15th. You can check out all the items on collectorinvestorauctions.com. Go there, register, bid for all their upcoming monthly auctions. All right. We have a fun show, guys, tonight. We've got Joe Perreault. He's going to be joining us shortly. He's going to do the same thing as last week. He's going to drop in for a bit. He's going to go away. He's going to come back. We have Jason, Professor Sports Cards, joining us shortly. Greg Miller is going to be joining us. And happy to welcome back Chris Hoge, who's been away on sick leave for a couple of weeks. He'll be back, as will Josh Adams. Let's get to it and bring out my buddy from Santa Cruz, your buddy too, Mr. Joe Perreault. Buddy, how are you tonight?
I'm good. What's up? Sports Cards Live Saturday night. Nowhere else to be but right here.
And here we are. And the chat, I love that. And the chat is already popping, guys. We have a bunch of you here. Let's say hello to some people, Joe, shall we?
We shall.
Kevin Hawthorne, Bill Betts, Outlaws is here. Situational Adventures, what is going on? Double V Cards live from Calgary. It's Saturday night. That's right. Jacob Dahl, Laura is here. Looking forward to meeting Laura at Burbank Sports Cards. In like 3 days, I will be there for the Pops and Comps book signing. Hearing about people coming.
I literally looked at plane flights to like pop down for the book reading. I wish I could go, but work's kind of off the hook. But I'm really hoping somebody videotapes that and we can get a little live on the book tour. You know, Jay Lee in the Burbank Sports Cards. Come on, Rob, make it happen.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been hearing from people saying they're coming, so I'm super honored, flattered. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to see people. Chris C, what's going on? Says John Mangini just put out a great video on grading. Have to check that out. Larry Gitlin, what is happening? Good evening. Ron Fig is here. Rob Starr is here. We got Sports Card Reverie, a new Instagram account, guys, a vintage collector. Nice guy. Got to meet him. Go follow him at that handle right there at sports_card_reverie on Instagram. Confluent Sports Cards. What's going on? There's Tony, Southern Collector. Ben Burrows is with us. Glenn Craig. What's going on, Glenn Craig? Do I know you? I must know you, Glenn. The Cardboard Corner. Happy Saturday to you. Jim at the Bank. We got with us Called Shot is here. Good. Ben Burrows says, I've been foaming at the mouth for a good show in Atlanta coming up at the end of the month. The Front Row Card Show. We've got Texas Dave. Hey, Jeremy. I hope all's well. You and the families. We are all well, Dave. Welcome to the show. Nick Chen is here. Chris C. Jay Hawker. Yankees fan. What's going on? Double O's Card Guy. We got Hoops Hobby Hangout. That's Joey. He'll be joining us here on the show. I think it's next week, maybe the week after. Fresh Prince. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Burbank. Sebastian, welcome to the show from Quebec. Dino is here. Loved the David Chase interview last week. I got to say, Joe, had a lot of people reach out and comment saying, we got to get that guy back. Well, David Chase is going to become like a regular here on Sports Cards Live. He can't be with us tonight. He's at Disneyland, but he will be joining us next Saturday and coming on, regularly. I'm excited for that.
Friend of the show.
Frank Manji says, suck it, Gio. I don't know what that's about, but I don't think Gio's here with us, but hello. Glenn. Yes. Looking forward to Eric. The book arrived today. Awesome. Glenn, thank you for having me on your show. That's why you sound familiar to me. All right. Well, Joe, we're going to have a good night. We're going to have a fun night tonight. I want to just let people know a couple of things. First of all, comc.com. Check out my cards, a company that I've been using for a long time, friendly with for quite some time now, officially a sponsor here of Sports Cards Live. So I want to thank comc.com for the support. You can see them right above Joe's head there. And to the left of them on your screen is Inferno Red Technology, another new supporter, sponsor partner here of the channel. If you are looking to build a tool in the hobby that needs some software engineering, they are the ones that have built and continue to build the hobby spectrum for myself and the community. Great. They're doing a great job. So reach out to them, reach out to me. I can introduce you to these guys. If you have an idea, hobby related, even if it is not hobby related, and y'all know ComC already, we're going to work on some Sports Cards Live community benefits from ComC as well. Wanted to mention that also, if you have ordered a Pops and Comps book from me directly, so not from Amazon, but from me directly, Amazon was late getting me my copies, guys, to ship to you, but the first batch is going to ship out on Monday. And then I'm going to wait for the next shipment to come from Amazon, and I'm going to ship out the next batch, and that should take care of everybody. So thank you everyone for that support. And I want to shout out one more thing, guys, here. Joe, this has to do with this is a hobby spectrum update. So I'm just going to share my screen, guys, because I have to say this is pretty exciting. First of all, I'm going to share the screen here. You can see we're inching up towards 1,000 people have completed the assessment. We're at 994. 710 of them have opted into the directory. And there's something going on here in the directory, guys. There's been some updates. I'm going to share the directory with you now, and you have to be in the system to see this at this point. But now you can see we've added little flags showing kind of where people are located. But even more exciting for me, and this latest person to join, this 2D individual, if I click on them, what I collect, you can now indicate players that you collect, teams and sports that you collect, which adds that further dimension of, okay, I know your motivation, mindset, and behavior for the most part because of the archetype that you are mostly reflected by. But now I can go another level deeper and see, what do you collect? Who do you collect? Maybe we collect the same player. Maybe I have a card you might want to buy. Maybe you have something I'm interested in. I can now reach out to you because I can reach out to this person through his X account, his Twitter account. So more and more, and there's more features coming that are sort of similar to this, but a bit different. So if you've already taken the assessment on the hobbyspectrum.com and you have joined the directory, I urge you to go back to the website, go into your profile, which you can see right here at my profile, and you can come and now you can add players you collect, teams, and sports. And you can right now it's a maximum of 5 players. We're going to grow that, but every play, and the nice thing is it's standardized. There's going to be no spelling mistakes. It's all standardized. So every player who's basically ever had a card is in the database. So go back to the hobby spectrum, add the players you collect, the teams you collect. You can even select like Hall of Fame baseball players if you want and put that in there. Another nice dimension to that project, guys. So check that out. And lastly, Joe, maybe not lastly, but the Edmonton Expo coming up April 3rd to 5th. I will be there, and I'll be there accepting consignments for Slab Sharks. I'll be there buying and selling. I'll be there having fun. Look forward to seeing people there. And I will also let y'all know, today I started building the Batmobile Lego set, and that is a fun build. I'll let you know that. That is a fun build. I think I finished up to bag 7 or 8 of like 17 today. Not hobby related, guys, but it was the kids' birthdays this week. We went to the Lego store, filled up the bags for them, got myself one, and then we're all sitting at the table doing our Legos and helping each other out. It's been a fun couple of days in our household. All right, Joe. Lots there, man. Leighton did send me a text tonight from the Philly Card Show. I see Dan in the chat, and was also there. I see Dan says, hanging out after an amazing Philly show. The get-together was, again, hugely successful, biggest one ever. Yeah, Dan, you're making us jealous here, buddy.
I think this is payback for the West Coast Card Show. I think these East Coast people have been waiting for the Philly show so that they can, let us know how much we missed. And I do hope it was a good one. I'm rooting for everybody back there in the East Coast, Philadelphia.
Man, just from the few posts I've seen, it looks like it's been an amazing show so far. But here's what Leighton wrote to me to read to he says, quick show report from Philly. Today was insane. Felt like a day at the National. Quality vintage is selling at a rate I'm not sure I've ever seen. There were so many people inside. They had to shut off the heat and turn on the air conditioning because it was so hot in there. So just a quick little update from Leighton, who couldn't be with us, but I thought that was nice to hear from him. Okay, so Jason, the Professor Sports Cards from Professor Sports Cards on YouTube, he'll be joining us in about 15-20 minutes. But I have a topic, Joe, that we can touch on before he joins.
Okay.
And that topic is okay. Well, actually, maybe before we do that, because I'm totally gonna do a 180 here and go back to last week where we talked with David Chase about the Jackie Robinson PSA 1, the card that he worked for weeks on to secure and to study, to make sure he knew that he wanted it. And we heard last week, if you watched the show or you've listened to the podcast by now, hopefully you know that he was ready to put in his snipe bid. He confirmed with eBay and the snipe company that the bid would go through, puts in his bid with 10 seconds left, shows the high price. He thinks he's won it. Then he realizes, no, he did not win. His bid did not get through. It glitched out by it was caught by eBay and was not able to go through. So today, literally today, I get a message from someone I've never communicated with who writes to me, and I'm not gonna be able to find it. It's already deep in my DMs, but he writes to me and he says that, I'd love to be able to find this though. I don't think I'm going to be able to in time. Anyway, he says to me, listen to your podcast. Don't come in the lives. I listen to the podcast. Thanks for what you do. All those nice, kind words. He says, so I was the person who won the Jackie Robinson card that you talked about on last week's show. I said, I'm thinking, no way. He goes, and I have a feeling after hearing David's sort of response and, feeling like the bid didn't go through, he didn't win the card. I have a feeling that he wouldn't have won the card anyway. I
was wondering that.
And he asked me not to share what his high bid was, but let me tell you, when I finished that communication with him, I phoned up David Chase right away, who didn't answer, so he called me back. I go, I know you're at Disneyland, but I have some news. I think it's going to make you breathe easy right now.
Right.
So I heard from the guy who bought the card, and he confirmed to me that his high bid was higher than yours, because I told him, I said, I think David's was about, this, like somewhere between 30 and 35,000. The guy's like, oh yeah, mine was higher for sure. David was very happy to hear that. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, first of all, this is just because this is what I was most desirous of knowing, partly for David's sake, because, obviously he'd gone through the ringer in terms of, the technology failing him and his bid not being able to be placed. But I also really did wonder, if there was a bid that was significantly higher, because when I heard the whole story unfolded, it really did seem like it was the kind of card that had attracted massive amount of attention. And it's rare in those moments for there only to be one person, going way deep into it and whatever, call it a mega bid or just call it an appropriate bid for a card that looks like an 8. And then the other thing though is the other thing that comes to mind. This is one of the reasons I moved away from the sniping strategy, is because I wanted to have a little more fluidity in the closing moments of the auction to adjust my highest bid, which it seems funny. Your highest bid ought to be your highest bid. But if you go all in and you're sort of saying like, my highest bid is my highest bid, and then you have a moment where you realize, actually, my highest bid might be more, right? And I think you might have had a moment like that, you know, in your collecting journey. And sometimes it's that one extra bid that wins you the card. And maybe it wouldn't have happened for our friend David, new friend of the show, but maybe it would have. Maybe he would have been in that moment. And if he'd been like, okay, I hit it here, I hit 29, I hit 32, I hit 35. What the hell? Someone else wants that card that bad? I want it more. 41. You know, so who knows? Who knows? And I'm not going to try and pry out the data from the other person who contacted you, but I appreciate them reaching out. And if I was David, I would sleep a little bit better. But it's also maybe an instructive tale for all of us to kind of consider when we get to those moments. Maybe don't put I see it protects us as well, right? Like if that's your final bid, that's your final bid. But I don't know. The story I heard made it seem like he might have gone higher than what he thought he needed to bid to win the card.
I think both of them were doing that, but I think both of these guys recognized that this was a special card, and maybe one that there could be someone else thinking the way that they did. I thought, listen, when I thought I was in the running, I thought like my high bid was going to be like half of David's, right? And then, so I was way out. Then David, his bid didn't go through, wouldn't have won it anyway. The individual who won it is, you know, I checked out his page on Instagram. It's a great page, great collection. I said to him, I said, it would be nice to have you come on the show and with David and we can talk about it. It'd be a fun follow-up. And he's a pretty private person, but he said, let me think about it. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, Joe, I mean, I have been in that situation before where I'm in on a card. It's the last 30 seconds. I got my snipe bid. I'm a manual sniper. I've got my snipe bid ready to go. And with 7 seconds left, I'm like backspace, and upping my bid just to be sure because I really want it, you know?
Right. I like that. A manual sniper. That's a good one. I like that. I don't think I've heard that. A manual sniper.
Well, I don't use it. Yeah. I'm not saying my name is Emmanuel. I'm saying that I do it myself. I just use the eBay bidding tools and go in and make my bids. Yeah. It's risky. The biggest fear is that the phone's going to ring. I lose sleep over that sometimes. Yeah.
Well, so it'll be interesting to hear from David, and I'm sure he'll have some time to reflect as he's down there in Disneyland. But yeah, what else is happening? There's been so much. It seems like all of my friends are making content on a daily basis, and there's so much kind of discussion about comps and, you know, have we hit the bubble? Is the bubble here, or is it just, you know, forward, onward, you know, Excelsior? How are you feeling about the hobby right now, Jay Lee?
I'm loving the hobby, man. I mean, hearing how busy shows are, the show I did last weekend for the one-day show that I set up at last week, I had a great time, you know? I don't know, man. I'm seeing just a lot of action, but I'm also seeing a lot of collectors, tons of collectors. I think collectors are under expressing themselves on social media where, you know, more flexing goes on and all that. So, you know, the same as usual, Joe. You know, I love the hobby in up markets. I love the hobby in down markets. I don't really care where the market's at. I just love being in the hobby. And you know what? I think the hobby is healthier than it's ever been. I'm not saying like here in March 2026 versus 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm saying, like, you know, if you zoom out, I think the hobby's in the healthiest place it's ever been. And I think a large part of that is simply the ability to connect with other people, because relationships, connectivity, community, I think that's what keeps people, not everybody, but I think that's something that will keep people in the hobby longer than if they did not have that. And we have that at our fingertips now. So for that reason, I think that the hobby's in a better place than it was after the junk wax era, before the internet really became a big thing. And now, you know, back then, you only knew who lived near you. You know, you maybe knew who you had mail order deals with, but that was about it. So I think that the hobby it's a new hobby nowadays, but I still love it. So I'm good with it, buddy. I'm good with it.
What do you? I saw an interesting comment today. Somebody was talking about the eye appeal movement, and then there was a post to the repost that said, the eye appeal movement has been around for a long time. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a fair comment. I mean, I think it has been, but I don't think that it's been as widespread as it is now. I think that it's there's still people that collect label first, card second. Of course there are. There's going to be probably that for a long time. But I think you evolve out of that with either experience or you have that epiphany. You're like, what in the world am I doing? Why am I doing it this other way? Anyway, that we talk about this every week. So, but the eye appeal movement, Maddie C's Eye Appeal Inc. is now live and open. And I mean, listen, I've been every conversation I have, it just with people like online or offline, just makes me validates my own approach in terms of like, yeah, it just makes so much sense to me. So what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I've always thought about it in terms of eye appeal. I was the person, keyword searching on eBay, pinhole or, paper loss, because those would typically be the cards that maybe I could get into a larger level card with, a 1 or an authentic and, but it looks like a 3 or an 8. So yeah, I appreciated the comment, but I'm in agreement with you. I think we've now reached sort of a level of focus where people really are dialing into the nuances of that, not just like the pinhole cards, but on all levels, like registration, color saturation, obviously centering. Take your pick of things that might qualify for strong eye appeal. And there are people doing what David Chase was talking about, just going through card after card, version after version to see how does this compare to the others, not for the technical grade, but the actual, like when I look at this card, does it give me a good feeling inside?
Exactly. I was thinking about this because I was reading, this was maybe a post on Twitter or somewhere where someone just had the caption. It said, oh yeah, the card's condition is a PSA 9. I'm thinking to myself, PSA 9 is not a condition. And that's arguable. I mean, I can see people coming at me for that because PSA 9 equals mint. So PSA 9 might actually mean condition, but I don't think it does because just because of the way 9s are and 8, just because of the way grading is, I don't think that the numerical grade awarded by a grading company is indicative of condition. I'm pausing here because I know that this is a flawed argument. Well, let's go down this road anyway. What is condition? Like what is, and who's to say what condition is? Well, PSA is who's to say what condition is. They are the market leader, so what they say goes. That's just the way it seems to work. But does condition have to only be a technical interpretation of the physical condition of the piece of cardboard? What about the eye appeal? What about the overall eye appeal? Then I was thinking to myself, PSA does not have a subgrade, or Beckett at least doesn't have a subgrade for eye appeal. They might say that we'll give you that extra, that those half grades are for eye appeal. Maybe that's the case, but I mean, there's no evidence of that. There's no assurance of that. So what is like is eye appeal its own subgrade? Is it its own grading criteria? And is it more important than all of the rest of them? Because eye appeal, here's where I kind of trip over myself. Eye appeal to me is inclusive of surface. Surface is so much more than just are there wrinkles or scratches or creases or stains, or it's the quality of the image, it's the registration, it's everything there. It's dirt on the card, staining, little blotches, of course, corners, symmetry. So I mean, I just think that eye appeal is everything, actually, to me, Joe. Like that's kind of where I'm going with it. Eye appeal for me is everything, to the point where I don't care if it says PSA 1 or PSA 10. I literally don't give two hoots.
Yeah.
Give me the one and save me 95% of the price, if not more. Like it's just so Yeah. What do you think of all that?
I mean, for me, it's all about sort of like era and the case studies of, ultra modern versus sort of like what I call classic, which is kind of like post 75. And then vintage for me is pre 75. I don't know. I think like I'm going to have a different set of scrutiny, criteria for the ultra modern. Like for me, I would take like a little, dent on the reverse on an ultra modern card versus centering. Like an ultra modern card for me, if it's a PC card that I really want to feature in my collection, it's like I want that thing bang on centered. Like I don't want an off centered, 2024 card. But you get into other eras and there's going to be other considerations in terms of what you're giving up and what you're gaining if you dial into what the best possible card is. So it's very situational, it's very contextual, and that's what makes the hobby so awesome, is that it's not just one answer, right? It's a fluid situation.
And when I'm glad that you bring up eras, because I gotta qualify all my comments by saying I'm thinking about vintage, and I'm thinking about vintage and whatever you want to call that period from wherever vintage ends to you up to the end of the 80s. So I'm thinking about 1989 backwards, basically, when I talk about condition and grades, because since then, I mean, it's so easy to find 10s that like who cares? Let's go to some comments. There's lots of great comments on this so far. Michael Rader says eye appeal was around long before grading and slabbing existed. Absolutely. Chris C says it's an opinion that is grading. It's an opinion that is biased. Grading is inconsistent at best, and at worst, it's fraudulent. Jeremy from California. Good evening, Jeremy from California. Rob Star says not all PSA 1s are created equal. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Alex says centering is so key to eye appeal. And then we have Orlando also said eye appeal has been around for years. I've been collecting that way for a long time. Orlando, he's ahead of the game, right? Fresh Prince says eye appeal Inc. has been a pleasure to view. Lots of amazing vintage cards on display from the community. Guys, that is eye appeal as in EYE Appeal Inc. Maddie C's company that is now live. West 238 says Emmanuel Sniper is Jay Lee's rapper name. That's awesome. Chris C says, I don't think we're in a bubble. The COVID thing was different, but I will say slow, steady growth over time is healthier than any spike, in my opinion. Could not agree more with that, Chris C. 3D 80s kids. John says, I'd love a down market as long as all the great people in the collecting community stuck around. Then more cards could be attainable. That's the question, though. Would they stick around? And only they know for sure who would stick around if we did see a down market. Rob Star says the number of weekly shows has blown up in the last 8 months in the Toronto area. And I think that's in every area for that matter. Dan's Vintage says, I manually snipe. I hate Gixon. I think it's immoral. So okay. I'm curious why it's immoral that literally, because I shouldn't say never. I've once, I don't know, over a decade ago, I did use some sniping account, Joe. I don't even remember what it was called, but I stopped using it. I just didn't try. I want to do it myself, but I'm really curious. Why would a automated sniping service be immoral? I literally just curious about that. Frank says manual sniping 2 seconds is the pro move. I'm a 2. That's when mine comes in. Phoenix Sports Fan says I used a bot 15 years ago for sniping, but I actually feel the opposite. I want to manually bid nowadays to try to avoid getting shilled. Yeah, more control for sure. Michael Rader, a good hello to you as I'm working backwards on some comments. We're gonna bring Jason, Professor Sports Cars, out in just a couple minutes. Chris C says that's back to the Jackie Robinson. That's good news for David. Peace of mind that eBay didn't cheat him out of it. Absolutely. I mean, that was whatever. That was an eBay glitch. Unfortunate for him, but he said to me, wow, like he said to his actual words were, I'm in the happiest place on earth, and you just put me in the happiest mood. Something like that, he said. So I was happy to give him that information today.
Ironic.
Exactly. What's up, Chad Shipper? Welcome, buddy. Good to see you as always. Orlando is still here. He was here. I'm going backwards, which I almost never do. And baseball card curmudgeon has joined us as well. Couple more here. Oh, I got lots of comments ready to go, guys. Chris C wanted to know, is there a way to mail my book to me to have me sign it? I mean, I'll tell you, it is a hassle shipping even a book from Canada to the US right now with just what's going on. So I would say, Chris, just wait till we're in the same place at the same time in the future. But I appreciate it. Bill Betts is on ComC pricing right now. Foul Ball is here. Good evening. Mookie Chilson says, Dan is right. Philly was a total freaking blast. Hodges, welcome. Gave the video a like. Thank you so much. Hoops Hobby says, Legos are a hobby too. I hear that. They're not cheap. Professor, the sports card professor. This is not Professor Sports Cards who's joining us. This is the sports card professor. Welcome to the show, Professor. Midlife Cards was not at the Philly show. Greg will be joining us later. Mookie Chilson says, I bet Jeremy separates each Lego bag by color like his old pal Mookie does. I don't need more Mookie. It takes more time, actually, I find. But Sundin says Lego is almost a flex these days. It's pricey. Situational says the hobby's on fire. Time to sell. And Chris C says it's only time to sell if your main goal is money. Mine is the joy I get from the hobby. Yeah, that's that give and take sort of thing. Alex Hyde, centering is so key to eye appeal. It sure is. All right, Joe. Before we bring out Jason, any final thoughts on that? And I do have a topic to talk about with Jason, but we'll also get into him a little bit and learn a bit about him. But anything before we do that?
No, I just love how the chat shows up, and great to see so many people. And one thing I would say is, like, it is intriguing to me to hear that vintage is on fire. I mean, Leighton's not, an exaggerator. He's an experienced, seasoned collector and dealer. And so if he's saying that vintage is like, going off in Philly, like that bodes well for, I don't know, to me, for people that are into vintage. And also, I guess you could say it doesn't bode well because there's some vintage cards I would like, and if they're going through the roof, it might be harder to acquire them.
Yeah, absolutely. Vintage is like, I don't know. I was going to say it's a sophisticated market compared to modern, but modern's sophisticated too, with all the different layers and levels. And
I mean, when we get Hoj on, I mean, he did a scientific dissertation on how he evaluated that Jordan Platinum 1 of 1 that he was looking at. And I mean, all the thought experiences of, 90 red PMGs here or the card over here, which would you rather have? And I'm just like, my brain is exploding as he's going through this. And he's just cool, calm, and collected, breaking it down like a, Immanuel Kant philosophy question.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that Immanuel Kant philosophy, but I'm sure there's a few scholars in the chat that do. Dan here said the next thing is going to be vibe appeal. Does the card give off a cool vibe? Yeah, I like that, actually. I like that. Love the reference of classic for the junk wax era by Joe. I hadn't heard that before. That's from Situational. And Lantern says, we criticize grading, but I feel like eye appeal is as well in certain areas. I know there are certain cards that I don't mind bad centering when compared to others. Yeah, if you like off-center cards, I mean, you're going to save money. So I definitely think that that's a good strategy from a financial perspective for sure. Okay, Jason, backstage, you ready to go? Give me a thumbs up, buddy, if you're good to go. All right, guys, we're going to bring on Mr. Jason, the Professor Sports Cards here on YouTube. Jason, welcome to the show. First time, how are you tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, listen to this guy. You sound so much different here than when you're on your own channel. Let's talk about some things, man. So first of all, it's good to have you. And you had me on. I've been on your channel a couple times now. Once I think we scheduled. Once I just popped on. But first of all, say hello and meet my friend Joe. Joe, meet Jason.
It's nice. I was listening to you guys before, so it was good hearing some of the conversation. Nice to meet you, Joe.
What's up, Jason? Anybody that's got a Raiders hat on is okay. I mean, I root for the Niners, but I grew up a Raiders fan. Kenny Stabler, Cliff Branch, Dave Casper, Fred Bolitnikoff, Oakland County Coliseum. So, Raiders are in my heart. And you're a NorCal guy, too, from what I understand. So here let's represent NorCal.
And the Raiders had a big last 24 hours, but they cut Geno Smith and they traded Max Crosby. So now we have the 14th overall pick, the first overall pick. We have 2 first rounds next year. So it's sad to see Crosby go, but we got a haul for him.
Onward, forward.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you. You've been on a bit of a heater on YouTube. Your channel is doing really well. You're doing live streams Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. But before we talk about that, I want to know more about you as a collector, because I don't know much about you as a collector. I see you got some cool things in the background there. But what is it? Give us and I'm sure other people in the chat know this, but really quick, what's your kind of hobby origin story? What brought you here into the hobby as a collector?
I have the cards from the first box I ever opened. My grandfather got me. It's 1990 NBA hoops, and I still have the cards. So that's when I started. And some people, when you're growing up, you hold a card, or you're a big historian, or you love sports in a certain way, you get a certain feeling about it. And so I don't know, it just connected with me. And so throughout my childhood, I had the 1994 Topps baseball set, and I would do my own like Stratomatic or Showdown type dice game, when create teams and do stats. I love the stats on the back. Back then it would, there wasn't the internet, so it connected you to the game. You could learn player stats, you could learn all the lineups. Then Showdown came out in maybe the early 2000s or late 90s. It was a baseball card building game. It was a dice game. You play 9 innings with friends. Loved that. I loved Topps Finest basketball growing up. And then, you go away to college, and I'd still buy packs here and there. I'd still do this eBay. I discovered ComC in 2017, and that's when I there was so many deals, and it was just all. And then, Dave and Adams also had some great deals at times. So that's kind of when I went fully back into picking up Wilt Chamberlain and the Magic Bird rookie card. And currently the way I stay in it kind of on the cheaper end is I have a collection of every NBA rookie to ever play. If they play over 500 games, which is about 6 seasons, even on the bench, I make exceptions. But so I've saved throughout packs over decades. I've saved all rookie cards. I have a ton of football. At some point I got rid of a lot of the baseball just because you can only have so much. So I love the vintage side. I believe more. I heard you saying vintage is on fire, but I do think vintage it's one point I like to make is vintage is so simple. And current, what's going to happen in 20 years when you look at this era is, man, it is not simple. It is very confusing, and vintage is historic. So I still collect some of the modern stuff, keep up on rookies and all that, but that's kind of my history. At 16, 15 years old, I went to my local card shop. He owned 2 card shops. He didn't get a day off. And so I convinced him to let me open and close the shop on Sundays so he could have a day off. So I did that for about 1.5 years, where I was the only employee there on Sunday. And yeah, that's kind of my backstory of cards.
Well, nice to hear. So you've been doing this your whole life, basically, since you were a kid, like many of us have. What was the moment that you decided to start YouTubing? Because it sounds to me like 2017 was kind of the let's get right back into the hobby point for you, after maybe it being, not like your lifestyle like it might be now. What happened between 2017 and when you started your YouTube channel? And before you started it, were you consuming content? How were you enjoying the hobby besides just cards before you started, and why'd you start the channel?
So in 2019, I think one of the first channels, and I stopped watching pretty quick, was Jabs. And he was opening some baseball products. So I was seeing this baseball product. And then, Jeff Wilson comes around. I watched it all. I mean, I consumed it all through Sports Card, all Sports Card Radio, all the different. I was the demographic. Why didn't this exist? And then over the couple years, it started to lose me. Everything felt the same. Everything felt a certain odd way. And I got inspired in 2022. So a couple years after everyone started making content, really, to start my channel. And I'd say the first couple years was a lot of learning, was a lot of it was a learning curve. I wasn't, and it took a while to grow, and I missed kind of the spike. And then last year in May is when it really started to get eyeballs on it. But yeah, so I guess I was inspired just because I didn't see the content I wanted to see. That's yeah.
I've heard people say that your live stream shows that you're doing twice a week now, I believe, are sort of filling the void that Sports Card Radio left when they stopped doing their live streams. I think they used to do a Thursday show once in a while. I don't know how often they did it, but I've heard that for a while now. I feel like, Jason, Joe, have you heard that? Have you ever heard that about Professor Sports Cards?
No, but that's not. I could see it because I've watched some of Jason's stuff, and it's kind of multidimensional. There's a lot going on. Like, I love how you sort of sample different videos from like all through popular culture. I mean, in some ways, I would say he's more dynamic than the Sports Card Radio folks.
I know.
Hey, there was a call for their situational adventures here, Jason. Why don't you go ahead and help us?
Hey, now.
There you go, Collector Charles. I know he's one of your crew. He's in the chat as well with a hey now himself. So welcome to the show to Collector Charles. But when people say that, I mean, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you're trying to do what those guys were doing. I think you're doing your own thing, and I think that the audience that was maybe that enjoyed that content found you as an alternative sort of thing. Does that make sense to you? And I'll just ask you straight up, are you trying to be the new Sports Card Radio, or are you trying to be Professor Sports Cards?
No, yeah, I'm definitely trying to be Professor Sports Cards, but I do agree alternative is because the similarities are 90% of content is down one lane. It kind of takes one. People are, promoting, selling, and that's a lot of the content out there. And so, or some of it's more neutral, and Neo, a Sports Card Dad, they're more neutral. And so when you take, I think that the similarity would be, yeah, we both take a different stance than most, and I think maybe we open, we share stories or share things that others might not cover. Do we go about it a different way? Yeah, sure.
Okay, no, fair enough. I mean, you're gonna obviously be yourself and do your own thing. You mentioned Neo, you mentioned Dustin, Sports Card Dad as other content creators. When I think about hobby content, there's different types of it, right? There are. I think of Neo and Dustin. To me, they're in the same category. They are the news reporters. They're bringing the news, whether almost basically every day. These guys basically they're doing content. You're not. They also don't do live streams. I shouldn't say that. I know they both dabble in live streams, but they're not like, I'm basically exclusively a live streamer. I think you do a bit more non-lives than I do. I think you're a bit less of a live streamer than I are, and that like I'm like 98% live stream. I think you're probably like 75% because you do put out pre-recorded videos a lot more than I do. But as far as the live streaming goes, you are a live streamer who's covering a lot of the news, whether it's industry news, fellow hobby content creator news, where's the drama news sort of thing. That's kind of what my perspective is on it. Am I right? Because I don't watch everything you do. I know you don't watch everything I do. It's impossible these days.
Sure.
How would you categorize?
By the way, I consider you were, of the lives and cards right now, it's this one and mine. So that's that, hey, thank you for having me on. And yeah, I would consider a lot of times you're going to get talking points from the channels you mentioned or we mentioned, where on a live, I'm not giving talking points. I'm giving some opinion. I'm giving some more nuance. I'm letting other, something that's really happened that it's just been so awesome. And I tried to gear it this way is, I share the link for callers so anyone can call in, and we get a lot of regulars, a lot of new people, a lot of people sharing information, a lot of people wanting to come on and share a story. And that's been a definite fun, the community that's grown over there with the live and also hearing you talk, I didn't go live until August of 2025. So my channel started doing well, and I bought a computer, a pretty nice computer, because I did want to start doing lives, and I realized doing them that I kind of sacrificed some views in video in order to build the community on the live. And I'm okay, that's just the direction we went was, the live is super fun. It's unique. I feel like people give me great feedback that I'm good at it. And I'm having a blast. And that is a key element to the live that, take it behind the curtain. Why not? But dude, keep having fun. If I'm not having fun, if we're not having fun, that's it's a hang, it's a hangout. So I did make that. And I've pivoted to the lives being kind of putting more energy into them.
Well, I mean, come on, man. You and I both know they are so much fun. Like I all day today, I'm looking forward to doing the show. And I had, today's my daughter's birthday. We had a birthday party. I was literally out painting pottery today with a bunch of 9-year-olds. I mean, but it was fun. Then we're playing basketball out on the driveway here. It was a nice warm day. But all throughout it, like I'm looking forward to coming on, seeing my buddy Joe, seeing the chat, having you on and the other people that are coming on. But the reason I'm not naming everybody is because this happens every Saturday. It's a blast, and
it's healthy. In an odd way, it's healthy.
It's fun, and you're doing it twice a week. So why are you? And this is legit, like totally not a loaded question at all. But you do 2 nights back to back. What's the story there?
We started Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I started 3 nights, and about a month in, I realized, bro, I'm way too tired on Friday. It's not. This is not working, and it was overkill. It was too much. I don't know. I just got good feedback. People kept showing up. It's so fun. So I've tried to stay consistent every Tuesday, Wednesday, because I do think consistency in the media world is really important. And so, there's no deep. I mean, we were able to do 2 hours in some crazy way, and then somehow we're able to do another 2 hours the next night, and both shows seem to flow and work. And there's enough. There's no downtime, and so, and it's a blast. I've had people, Frank, let's give Frank a shout. I know he's here. He helps with comments. He helps, produce a little bit of the show and back scene. And it's really neat to be able to reach out to people and have people be willing to want to come on and talk, I mean, I think, did you have Hoj on tonight or, it's always fun being able to talk to people like them.
Yeah. He comes on, we call Hoj the closer, although he was on the IR for the last couple of weeks, but
that's right. He was sick, right?
Yeah. He improved to probable a couple days ago, and now he's confirmed. So looking forward to have Hoj back on with us later on tonight. We're going to bring Greg on in about 10 or 12 minutes. Joe, are you good still? I think you're
I'm going to pop off here, but I just want to say one thing to both of you who are, you manage the live stream. And I think that is a really unique skill set, because you've got to be nimble. You got to, like, when you have an audience popping off, contributing the way they do, things can go anywhere. And so it takes a certain level of, facility to roll with it and to be, responsive to who's in the chat and what's coming up, where the conversation is going. So I appreciate that. And I don't think everybody understands just how challenging that can be sometimes. So anyway, I'm going to pop off, Jaylee. I'll be back and grab a slice of pizza and take a walk, and I'll be listening to you guys in my earpods. But great to meet you, Jason.
Hey, likewise.
Hope we can connect sometime in real life, and you guys have a great show.
All right, we'll see you. We'll see you back here soon, buddy. All right, thank you.
Bye, Joe.
All right, so Jason, I want to go to some comments because they many of them have are about you. So first of all, Chris C says he's better than Sports Card Radio because he's not a hypocrite. You like that comment?
I'll take it. It.
Big Mac Boy says SCR is very entertaining, but there's only so much BS I can handle. The Rolex and Louis Vuitton stuff is ridiculous. They like their brand names, I guess. Jim Scholl says Jason's call-ins are very cool.
No doubt.
Jason, there's been a live stream in the show, in the hobby now for over 6 years called Hobby Hotline Saturday Mornings. It now lives on the Ford Collectors YouTube channel, but for a long time, it was started years ago by John Newman and a guy named Drew Herndon, who I haven't seen much of him in the last few years, but that was touted as the hobby's only, first and for a long time, only call-in show, and I was a rotating host on it for maybe a couple of years. I retired from that several years ago now. I kind of said, thank you, but I got too much going on, and it's really early for me where I am, and it'd be 7 a.m. for you, so really, really early to do it. But there were never call-ins. Maybe one. No one ever called in, so it didn't really feel. You've managed to use the call-in technique to improve your show, to make your show more interesting to people. Any secret to that? Not that you want to give the secret away because, it's kind of your thing, but how did you make that work for you?
Joe just mentioned something about being nimble or this and this. So there's something about, and it's flattering, and people have given me compliments about it, how I handle callers, I guess, in a way that makes other people want to call in or makes people want to call back. So while, we can have a little controversy on the show where I can still be honest or give my feelings, it doesn't seem to scare people away. It only seems to get more people to want to call in. So I'm not going to say it's all me, because it's not, but there's some unique thing there. And I went to, I'm a journalism major. I did interview. I work for, I work for a newspaper doing reporting for high school sports. I was part of the, in college, I reported the sports. So a little bit of a background, and being a teacher, I have a very social background in talking to people. So, some of it has just been, we've treated the callers right. I think we've treated some of the callers right. And we do share things that other places don't. And so some people are really wanting to come on to get that out there, or their voice heard, or their story heard. And it's been really neat. That's been a really awesome part of the show. And we didn't know it would spiral like that. More new callers, more, and it's over 4 or 5 months, it's turned into what it has, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, you invited me on one time, and then this feels like months ago now. And then maybe a couple months ago, I had you on, I was watching, and I called in, and you brought me on.
Right.
And we got to hang out for a bit. It was fun, man. It was fun for sure. More comments though. This is tongue in cheek, guys, but Tom Newman says, "You broke losers collect pictures of men. Haha. I just got a new LV purse." I think he's an IG guy. Situational Adventure says, "Professor has live shows and shines a light on the shadows of current happenings." So that's gonna get people to watch and listen. Penny Sleeve says, "An open invitation to anyone is key. Definitely helps." Dan says, "Jason is a good dude. SCR equals," and he says, "a-holes." Orlando says, "On the lives, the chat is where it's at."
Yeah. That's right? Underrated. The chat is really, they're having a blast, man. Something about maybe me speaking so openly allows them to feel more open, but you get that all the time. The comments, the chat, and when I watch back to see what was said, they're hilarious. We have some really, really funny commenters, Boozle being one of them.
Of course. The biggest problem I have with the and this isn't a problem, so I'm not discouraged.
They're ruthless. They are ruthless.
I watched my chat. You can see my eyes. You can tell when I'm looking at the chat, because the chat has been a part of the show for we're a month shy of 6 years doing this, and the chat has been involved since day one. So, but as the show gets more popular, more people watch, bring on a popular guest, you get more people in the chat, they start talking to each other. It makes my job harder, right? Because I've got to filter through.
Well, I'll give you a lot of credit, because I'm a little jealous. I see how you're going through the comments, and I've found as we've grown, and I want to keep it moving and bring people, and I need to focus on so many things. I have less time to really give to the comment section, which sucks. That sucks,
tough,
but
man. It's tough.
There's only so many things you can compartmentalize. If I start focusing there, then I get wrapped up there, but you do a really good job of being able to get back to your comment section, because I would love to be able to and that's something you've been doing it longer than me also. So maybe the more I do it, the more that will come into play, because I'd like to get a little better at that.
Yeah, it is. I don't know, man. It's a thing that I've been doing, and I'm over 800 live streams now, and I don't know. It just happens. Southern Tony says, tried to watch SCR one time. I lasted 10 minutes. It was so bad, so not a fan. Bob Boozle, speaking of Bob Boozle, next update of Hobby Spectrum should involve DNA matching. That's a good idea, Boozle. That's a good idea. Chrissy says, you down with OPG? Yeah, you know me. Down with Jeremy Lee? Yeah, you know me. Thank you. Thank you for that, Chris. Gold Hour says, Professor has the Howard Stern radio call-in feel.
Hey, now.
I see that. I see that. Dan says, Hobby Hotline is doing quite well these days. Thank you. I see it still happening, but I don't know if they're getting call-ins. I think they might from card shows and that, but I just don't get to watch it as much as I once did.
Can I ask you, and we could do this after, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say, I've been trying to figure out the Instagram side of this thing for months, and I've kind of given up, and you've made it look great. So I need to ask you out off here how it looks great. You know, I cannot figure it out, but yeah. So I've neglected the Instagram side.
I gotta say, like I'm looking at it. It looks good until I screen share, but I keep it out of my StreamYard. Yeah. Can you see it in StreamYard right now?
I see both. So I see the YouTube layout and the Instagram. But so when you screen share and you bore everyone, it looks poor. When you screen share, it looks poor.
It does. It's distracting. So I don't have it in my view right now. Jim says, Jason and Jeremy, thanks for connecting the dots to the community. Absolutely. Boozle, please don't read my conversations, Jeremy. It's personal, bro. Mookie Chilson, Emmanuel Sniper knows the chat is undefeated. It certainly is. It certainly is. So many more comments here, guys. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get to all of them. But so there we go. You know, it can be tough, Jason. All right, we're gonna bring Greg on to join us. Midlife Cards, Greg.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he's gonna come join us. Before we do that, I want to ask you though, Jason. Is there anything you want to chat about? I do have a topic we can bring in, but we can bring in Greg and wait till he's on with us as well. He's got a lot of things to talk about too. But what about anything else on your mind right now, hobby-wise, content-wise, that you'd like to talk about with here with us today?
Sure. Well, before I came on, I heard you mention, and this might also be boring, but you could give me a quick rundown. You mentioned someone asked you about shipping a book, and you said it was kind of a pain to do anything from Canada, shipping right now. So maybe, I don't know, a quick couple minutes to give me some insight on shipping from US to Canada or Canada to US. How big of a deal how much of a pain in the ass is it?
So now I used to be able to go to the post, to the Canada Post, to the post office here. They're all over the place with a bubble envelope with an address and pay for the stamps, the shipping, and send it off. Now you've got to go to some website. You got to find the I can't remember what the code is called. Every item has to say where it was manufactured on it. For anyone who's from the US, I literally had to order from Amazon made in Canada stickers to put on the book, literally stick it on the book. You'll be able to take it off. They're not like that sticky, but I had to get stickers to put on the book before I ship them out. You can't just go to the post office now and ship something. You have to go to this website, this government website, get your documents. Dude,
is it expensive?
No, the price, it's not like it's crazy. Not anymore.
It's just a stupid
process.
Sketch.
It's just process. And it's a pain, man. It's a pain. But I found there's a company that kind of specializes, that they have APIs with here in Canada. They have an API to the United States Postal Service so that we can give them the information they need on the items that we here in Canada are sending. So it was just like one of those new things. You just have to figure out how to do it and get her done. People are doing it all. And the company that I'm using, I mean, these guys actually, I believe what they do is they drive the truck. Like, I'm going to drop these cards. I'm going to drop these packages off on Monday, and the truck's going to leave at 4:00 and head south of the border to, I believe, a U.S. Postal Service outlet in the U.S. and ship it from there. Like, they're literally they can't just ship it Canada Post now. They're shipping it from the US, which is good. I prefer that way. And it doesn't really
is difficult US to Canada.
That I can't speak to.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. I can't really speak to that.
Have you noticed shipping prices? If you buy a card from the US, is it costing you more to get it up there?
Well, I don't need to do that. I have several ways around that. I have a ComC mailbox. I've got a ship my cards mailbox. I've got a personal mailbox down there as well. So
Okay.
like through family. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
The other
But
question that you guys were talking about when I came in was time to sell. And yeah, I mean, the stuff is weird right now. I think you said you don't really care about what the market's doing. I think that's fair, but the market has been kind of in a weird spot over the last 8 months or so.
but it always is though, right? It's all
Well, sure, but the couple of 2-3 years, like it was crash, and then there was a moment where it looked like it was back to reality for 2 or 3 years, 2.5 years. Things kind of flattened off, and then that's normal. You know, that's what it should look like.
What you're talking about is the COVID bump, and someone made a comment about that. I don't know if I have it anymore, but we had the COVID bump, and then we came back down. Things kind of went back down to sort of where they were pre-COVID. I mean, this is not across every single card,
and still more. It was still more than pre-COVID, but it flattened.
And now we've exceeded where we were at the height.
Yes,
on many cards.
Insane.
So
for
that's
like no reason out of nowhere.
Is it out of nowhere? Tom Brady opens up stores every second week throughout the United States. Fanatics gets
it's mind-boggling, because then if you pay attention to like some of the economy stuff, it just, who the hell is having the money? I guess there's a certain neat class of America or people that are buying. It just doesn't make sense when you look at layoffs and people tight and just the uncertainty of things. And
I don't know if you saw that thing I said recently about how, you know, the money doesn't matter at the top and the money doesn't matter at the bottom. It matters in the middle. Again, generally speaking, the rich just keep getting richer. And if they're coming in and spending their money on it, and I mean, listen, of course there are theories about money laundering and proceeds of crime and all this stuff too. And I'm not saying that is not true. I don't know for certain, but it wouldn't surprise me. But what I'm saying is that the rich are getting richer as they tend to. That's just been the way the world works, and they need somewhere to dump their money.
That's right. That's right.
So, I don't know if it's. Yeah, I mean, and then you also have to think about Mr. Wonderful and him spending 13 mil on a card. This stuff gets out there. The news gets out, and it brings new people in. I hear from people semi-regularly.
Clueless, saying, though. Some of them are getting into something they're clueless on.
But absolutely they are. That's 100% true. And that's where my book, Pops and Comps, can be very handy.
Hey now.
Especially. Hey now. There's a hey now. All right, let's bring Greg on. Greg, give me a thumbs up, buddy, if you're ready to go. All right.
Oh, how cool. I didn't know I was saying Greg.
Say hi.
What's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing? Welcome back to the show, Greg. I don't know. Have you guys met before? I'm sorry. Yeah, you've been on with him, right?
I've been on with Jason a couple of times, and in fact, we almost met in person because he was visiting my hometown over Christmas break, and we had a crazy storm, but we were supposed to go to breakfast together, and we didn't get to because the storm was like everything was flooded and washed out, and it was crazy. But yeah.
Well, Greg, welcome back to the show. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about with you, but before we get into your stuff, love to get your thoughts on what you've been in the back room now for about 20 minutes. Love to get your thoughts on what you've heard so far, and to Jason's topic that he just brought up, sort of state of the market, which is funny because Joe almost brought up a similar topic in the first half hour. So this is on people's minds, but what are your thoughts, Greg? Just sort of state of the market type of topic.
Yeah, well, I got my forever stamps handy because we were talking about all the postage stuff, so I'm ready on that. State of the hobby. I mean, I think you nailed it, Jay Lee, when you said it's always something. It's always kind of in flux, and you know, Jason was right that there was that period after the crash where things kind of was like, is this the new normal? And then we went right back to where we were. But at the same time, you have to look at, and I don't want to get too economical, but when you start looking at like gold prices and the strength of the dollar and stuff like that, it's like, well, is it going up or is the dollar worth less? Are we in an inflationary period? Like, you know, when the price is silver and gold, you know, double or triple or quadruple, then it's like you start going, well, you know, the price is going up. My buddy Iconic Al says you always have to look at what is something selling relative to gold. And so when you look at it that way, it's hard to know what's really happening with the prices. But I'm just buying cards, having fun, and when a card comes up that I want, I buy it.
If you just are consistently in the hobby and you're sort of always buying, you're always selling, or you're just always buying, or you're always selling, whatever it is, I guess if you're always selling, you have to be buying because you need to find stuff to sell. But you're kind of just always going to run the average in a way, when in hindsight at least, and you're also going to run the general curve of the hobby, which over the past 4 or 5 decades has just been a steady build with a whole bunch of this in between. But even if you were to flatten out like 2015, even 2017, since Jason kind of got way back into it until now, you've got a curve that's just kind of, going this way. Yes, we've had some lows, we've had some highs, but it's so hard to time the market. People in the chat tonight have said now's the time to sell. It very well might be. I thought the time to sell was a couple of years ago. It happened that I had to sell, so I sold a bunch of things. Would have been better off financially had I held on to those things. Or maybe not. It's tough to say what would happen. But anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like you just never know. So I don't try to time the market at all. I really just try to avoid that strategy altogether, because I have had experiences where I've done. And even within a single season, even within a single year, you can time the market within a year as far as sell. One thing I will say is that the best time to sell for like every player is going into the season or going into the playoffs, like just before the playoffs, just when the season's starting, when there's hopes for everybody. That's a good time to sell. Everybody's team can make the playoffs. Every player can have a great year. The season starts, players get hurt. The playoffs come, people get knocked out of the first round. What were you going to say, Jay?
No, I'll add on to that. That's 100% accurate. And the other one is where it doesn't make sense, but it's just the truth, is if like say Patrick Mahomes on the way leading up to a Super Bowl run, you want to get rid of it right before the Super Bowl or a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, because right after they win, you'd think it keeps going up, but it doesn't. That's almost the peak, is right before, whether they win or lose. It almost never continues to go up. And now the season's over and that the hype for him winning's gone, and it tends to trickle down or not keep going up, which is anti to how your mind would probably think of it in the first place.
You're exactly right. We saw that with, Patrick Mahomes, I feel, is like the poster child for that whole theory, which is now, I think, kind of proven, which is, you win the Super Bowl and the reason for that is quite simple too, Jason, which is everyone was gearing up for the
hype's
Super Bowl.
Gone. Yeah, the hype's gone.
Now we're going to sell. Well, market's flooded, supply goes up. You know what happens to demand? It just can't hold it. So, and that happened to Patrick Mahomes twice. 2 Super Bowls.
And Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl. His card didn't continue to, go up after. Yeah. The time's to get rid of it right before or in the playoffs, as you said.
Absolutely. That's the right time, but it's so hard to do because you want to ride that. You want to ride out the playoffs with the card, right? You want to feel like you have a piece of something. You sell the card, he wins a Super Bowl. Like, oh, darn, I don't have the card anymore. Well, you should almost be happy that you didn't in many cases at that point. So yeah, it's a fun topic for sure. Guys, before we transition, I'm going to just run through a couple comments, fellas, if you don't mind. Kinger says, I recall you had a guest on the show called Sports Card Strategist, I believe, or did live shows giving sports card advice. I don't find him very knowledgeable. I'm not even sure who you're talking about there, Kinger. Let me know. I'm not sure. David Chase joining us from Disneyland. My wife and son think I'm answering a work email. Have fun in the show. I'll be watching the replay. We'll see you here on Saturday. Michael Rader says, I look forward to this show every Saturday night. I know you guys don't know me, but the hobby community is the best. Hope to see some of you at Strongsville Independence. Michael Rader, always good to have you in the chat. Hobby Champs here says, Midlife Greg is a legitimately funny dude. It takes certain people to get it out of him, like Mike, but when he does, it's freaking gold. And Orlando, a nice compliment to all three of us. 3 best YouTube communities combined, Jay Lee, Midlife, and the Professor. That's really nice, Orlando. But hey, and by the way, Orlando, I emailed you today with a date for you Let me know if that works. Michael Rader says Midlife Greg is the best because he allows his community to participate regularly. I was talking to Greg privately just the other day, and I was commending him on his ability to build community. So I'm with you on that. And High Pop Professor, who you just referenced, I believe, says perpetually dollar cost average your way through the hobby ups and downs. Yeah, exactly what I was just getting at. So well said. Obviously, I think it's well said because I just said the same thing. So, all right. Jason, anything else on your mind, man? I mean, I'm enjoying having you on. It's good to see you on this background. I've seen you on your own several times and been on with you, and I know Greg's been on with you. But if you wanted to, listen, we have a lot of the same people that watch us, our channels, our shows. Same with Greg. This goes for all three of us. That goes without saying. But we probably have a few that don't know. There's probably a few people that are aware of two of us or one of us, but not all three of us. Take a second, Jason, and just, invite people to your community. I think it would be nice to, hey. Yeah, go ahead, man.
No, that's nice. Yeah, it's the community continues to grow. People have fun. That's if you come on and expect, chat doesn't hold back. So you're looking, but everyone seems to have a good Orlando could speak for it. Everyone has just a good time in there. So yeah, please come join us. The 2 hours ends up feeling like 10 minutes. And yeah, it's just a bunch of people that are having a good time.
It's so go check out Professor Sports Cards if you have not yet. And Jason, I'm going to transition over to some of Greg's stuff. You're welcome to stick around if you want past your call time, but if you got to go, that's fine too.
If you're okay, I would love to hang with Greg. I haven't seen, Greg's. We've had conversations off air as well. So I mean, if you're okay with that, I'll stay. I'll just stay to hang. Yeah.
Keep on hanging out. We're gonna bring on. Yeah, you know what? We're good for the next little bit. So stick around.
When you tell me I gotta go, just tell me. Yeah.
I'll let you know for sure, guys. Before we do transition over to Greg, I want to, and I am just proud to be working with Chronosio. So guys, you two have some sips of your water. I'm going to run a little quick sponsor partner read here, if you don't mind, everybody. I'm going to talk about Chronosio because they're really supporting the show here, doing great things. They are an AI-powered collection assistant that allows boxes and boxes of cards to be scanned, documented, and listed for sale online in just minutes. It works with sports cards, TCG cards, slabs, and raw cardboard. There are 2 bundles available on Walmart.com, eBay, Amazon, as well as certain hobby stores, guys. The Pro Bundle comes with software, a Ricoh 8170 stack feeder scanner, and shipping supplies, which is perfect for someone who has thousands of raw cards, unlimited inventory management, 3,600 monthly AI card documentation jobs, and management of 3,600 eBay listings. All comes with that one purchase. The regular bundle is similar, but has a Canon flatbed scanner and is best for slabs as well as people with hundreds of raw cards. Also, unlimited inventory management, 1,200 monthly AI card documentation jobs, and management of 1,200 eBay listings. Their cards to cash bundles not only include the scanner, software, supplies, but also, this is key, guys, seriously, a 1-hour one-on-one enablement session at the time of your choosing. Simply visit chronosio.com/booking. It's a huge part of the value. Not only do they work with you to get up and running, but they're always there to help manage your cards and sell them online with you. So whether you're a collector, a hobby store looking to expand your business, go to chronosio.com, learn more, and thank you to them for their support. Okay, guys, I appreciate everybody hearing me out on that. Greg, let's talk about what's going on with you, buddy. And I want to start with this. I want to start with this right here, everybody. Midlife Card Collecting Stories is now available on Amazon. It's the #1 new release in baseball biographies. It is by none other than Greg Miller, who is sitting right down there. You can buy this on Amazon, everybody. Please check it out if you haven't. 204 pages. It's in English, published March 1st. It's not even a week old. It's less than a week old. And I like this, Bob Boozler's Battle of the Books. Well, let me say one thing. Our books are both completely different. You can also find mine on Amazon as well, guys. There it is too. Pops and Comps. 400 pages in English, been published just about a month longer than Greg's, but you've heard enough about that. Let's talk about Greg's book. And Greg, I would love you to just tell the audience who hasn't, I can't believe anyone in here doesn't know about this book yet, but like, how is it going so far? How does it feel to get it published? I know what it's like to work on one of these things. And Jason, maybe you'll be next. Maybe you'll do one of these too. We can all listen. I would buy a book from everybody who is in the hobby that has something good to say. I want to fill up my hobby bookshelf with authors that I am friends with. To me, that would be like, that's the dream, guys. That's the community. That's what we're building here. Greg, how does it feel to finally get it done?
You know, I was really excited. And the thing that has been amazing over the last week is people are sending me pictures of them with it, you know, and I'm getting Instagram posts of people having the book. And that has been a really cool feeling. You're like, this thing's actually real. This is actually happening. In fact, David Chase sent me this picture today of him in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle reading the book.
That's
so
amazing.
Because he's at Disneyland. So he took that. That was obviously funny. You know, I started it last summer. It was like June. I mentioned it to you very briefly at Ash's get together at the National. And I, you know, just like in your ear, I like wasn't saying anything to anybody, but there's so much going on in the hobby that, you know, people get emotional about. There's negativity. There's, you know, all this stuff that this hobby has done so much for my life. Like, it has made my life better. It has gotten me through some tough times. It has gotten my dad through some tough times. And I didn't really realize that until I started this. I just was like, I have so many cool stories that I want to share about different things from when I was a kid, when this happened, and, you know, as an adult and in college that this happened, and different situations that happened. And I just wanted to not lose them. And so I was like, I want to get my dad. I want to talk to my dad. I want to ask him questions. I want to share some of his stories before we lose him. And I want to be able to compile them so that I have them for me. I have them for my family. It's like a time capsule. And so it's 20 stories of true life things that happened with me from the first time I ever saw a pack of cards to the most recent one was in like December. It was as I was writing the book, this thing happened. And I was like, that's gotta be a chapter. Like, I can't believe that just happened. And a lot of my friends are mentioned in it, and a lot of just events, but it's a feel good thing. It's sort of like me sharing these events and how, looking back now, I'm realizing it's not a coincidence that I was heavy into cards at the different times I was heavy into cards, because cards are a big part of, and the hobby helped me get through some of those tough times. And we all have tough times in life, and sometimes you need a distraction. And this hobby has done that for me. And I'm extremely grateful for it.
Isn't that true, man? This hobby is a great distraction from real life, and your book is going to add to that storage of sort of distractions for people to who want to read a book, you know, and just enjoy the putting themselves in your shoes and feeling what you felt in those moments. I like this comment from Tony. He says, Greg is a fantastic storyteller. I love the stories of him and his dad. He did rip off his neighborhood pal by fleecing him for a Ryan Sandberg rookie. Sorry to ruin it for everybody. There's the spoiler. Sorry for reading that to people as well. And then Mookie Chilson says, Amazon tells me people who have bought the Midlife book have also bought Pops and Comps and a 1986 Donruss Canseco. Here's a good one for you, Greg. From Frank says, weren't you afraid the black background on your book would affect grading? What do you say to that?
Well, I put an eye appeal sticker on it and make up for it.
That takes care of it. And Orlando says, remember to order Greg's book for Strongsville autograph session, promo code Orlando. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
at Strongsville, the 4 collectors are putting on a trade night, and so I wanted to do something to just try to help advertise that, but also, you know, with the book. And so at my little booth, I'm gonna do a book signing. So I've sold about 40 for that so far, so I'm excited to be able to hand the book to some people. And I mean, it's cool that they're getting in the mail, and then I get pictures and Instagram posts, but there's something about being able to hand it to somebody that I'm really excited about. So April 11th can't come soon enough for me. It's about a month out, but
I'm gonna miss being there and seeing everybody, but it's just not in the cards for me at this point this year. It's too bad, but anyway, all right. Have a great time there, Greg. Congrats on publishing the book. We have a topic. I want to get Jason involved in this topic as well, guys. And this is a topic that Greg kind of brought to me when we were chatting the other day. It kind of came up really organically as well. But it has to do with something that Greg is starting to collect, which is you're into this 90s refractor kick right now. It's a whole new world for you, Greg. You're seeing a bunch of new things, which is an awesome way it's awesome when, as a decades-long hobbyist, you can find something new and feel like it's a brand new experience. It's a whole new lane. And that is really cool. Now, we were talking, and then Greg kind of made the comment. I'm going to set this up for you, Greg, and we'll get your thoughts. We'll get Jason's thoughts. But you basically said this, and I had to write it down as we were talking. I said, slow down. I'm writing this down. This is good. He said, people identify themselves by what they collect. So they are apprehensive towards trying new portals, I think was the word you used, areas of the hobby, because it doesn't align with how they see themselves. And
Yep.
I think that's a really limiting mindset. I think it's almost dangerously it's like, listen, it's not like you're going to go get hurt physically, but I think it dangerously can cause you to not enjoy the hobby as much as you otherwise could if you are so tied to this perception you have of yourself and how you think other people might see you based on your hobby identity. So that's my kind of opening for this topic, Greg. Why don't you take it from there? Jason, listen up, because I want to get your thoughts on this when Greg's done.
So here's my thought. I think that, like you just said, we all kind of identify as ourselves. So I'm a pre-war collector. I'm a golden era collector. I'm a modern, an ultra modern, an 80s, and nostalgia. And the thing that YouTube, and I was talking to Mookie about this the other day, and the thing that YouTube allows us to do is it allows us to be introduced to and learn about new arenas within the hobby that we weren't previously aware of, and we can kind of dip our toe in it by seeing that. Most of the content that I watch is not people that collect like I collect. It's people that collect differently than I collect, because I'm more drawn to passion that people have. It's not that they're showing cards that I want or that I have. It's that I see how excited that they get, and when they get excited, I get excited, and I'm like, well, what is this all about? And I pulled some cards because I want to show a few as I'm kind of talking about this. But, like, you know, Orlando is passionate about the Goodwin Champions cards. And I had never heard of Isaac Murphy, but I had to have an Isaac Murphy card after watching Orlando talk about Isaac Murphy and talk about the Goodwin Champions cards. You know, and Ryan Nolan of Breakout Cards, like, he got me heavy into non-sport stuff. You know, I bought this Sitting Bull card at the West Coast Card Show. This Thomas Edison card is one of my favorite cards in my collection. It's got a stamp on the back, which I think adds awesome character to it. It's an address in New York City, in Manhattan. And I'm like, these things belong in museums. And I wouldn't have even all three of these cards, I wouldn't have even considered before getting into some of that stuff. But I see the passion in other people, and I start to learn about it, and then I start getting intrigued by it. And I think that, I mean, I was even on a private chat earlier this evening, and before this show, I went in and I was talking to some guys, and the guy goes, the Autogram rookie card. I think Autogram's rookie card is one of the best looking football cards of all time. And I'm like, we'll get it. And he goes, well, I'm a baseball card collector. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you're limiting yourself? Like, there's this whole world out there, and people aren't willing to step out of their comfort zone. And the thing that I would compare it to is it's like traveling. Like, don't you want to see what Paris looks like? Don't you want to see what Venice is like? Like, I'm comfortable in Sacramento, but I want to see other places. I want to experience other things. And if I just stay in Sacramento my whole life, I'm completely chaining myself to this location and I don't get to experience all these other things. And I think that people that are too focused are missing out. And the thing that I said when we were talking the other day, Jeremy, is the most common question I get is, how do I avoid the new shiny object? Not like pun intended, but how do I avoid being distracted by these other things that prevent me from getting to the card that I really want? And you have to be intentional about what you're buying. But like my buddy Brian, the high pop professor, who's in the chat right now, like I've been watching his channel on like 90s refractors, and like I just bought this Jeter card recently. I mean, this thing is freaking awesome. This thing is freaking awesome. I bought this Barry Bonds 93 finest refractor the other day, and I find myself texting Brian and Iconic Al all the time going, so tell me about this. What's the difference between this and this? Teach me about this. And I've been watching Brian for 2 years and I love his channel, but he doesn't. Before a week ago, we didn't collect alike at all, but I love the passion that he has for it. And so I do think that we can have things distract us from what we ultimately maybe want, but some of those arenas aren't distractions. Those are legitimate things that we would enjoy. It's different than, the point of purchase display, the gum at the grocery store, at the conveyor belt at the beginning. Like that's just waste. But if you stay focused on what is it that you actually want your collection to be about, I think too many people are missing out on some really awesome opportunities. And that's the thing I love about YouTube, is I can learn about non-sport from Ryan Nolan. I can learn about Goodwin Champions from Orlando. I can learn about 90s refractors from Brian, the high pop professor. I love all that stuff now. And I never would have even known anything about it if it wasn't for those three guys. I mean, and even just one last second, I know I'm doing my thing, but Tony, Southern Collector in the chat, like I'm like really enjoying autographed vintage cards. I mean, this Brooks Robinson card that I traded for at the West Coast Card Show, like that's an early Brooks Robinson ballpoint pen autograph. It's not sloping like it did later in his life. Like this thing is like, this should be in a museum. And I never would have considered that before Tony opened my eyes to it. So my whole thing is there's a whole world out there and we can't limit ourselves simply because it's not in our arena. So I know I just went on like an 8-minute, but I'm passionate about this. I think people are missing out and I don't want people to miss out on so many cool stuff.
I think you're right, man. I think I agree. People are missing out. People who collect one player only, I just don't understand that. Nothing again, collect what you like. I don't this is not disrespect. It's just I can't get my head around that approach. I would be so unsatisfied if I could only collect cards of one player. So I also, you talk about what you just described, all these people you're talking about, they've influenced you. They are influencers. Yeah. Which is kind of crappy because the term influencer has a very negative connotation in social media, hobby social media. It's almost like we got to take that word back, because I'm influenced by people all the time. When I went to the West Coast Card Show and bought that baseball memorabilia stack of cards, I was influenced by the cards. Like I saw them talk to the dealer. He explained some stuff to me. I was influenced and I went and bought. The other thing you talked about is focus. Yeah, you can't buy everything. How do you avoid being taken in by that shiny item? Well, it's hard because if you're like me, you like so many cards, you just can't possibly do them all. You can't buy them all, collect them all. So you have to kind of put them through a filter and decide which ones that you like the most and go and just go for those. So it's lots of great points there, Greg. I'm not going to reiterate them all. Jason, let's get your thoughts on the topic and responding to Greg's soliloquy there.
No, I want to agree with Greg and disagree or point out another part is on the content side, and a lot of what my channel, I guess, talks about is, those channels Greg is mentioning are the blood of the hobby, but they're overshadowed, and maybe they're not as sensationalized as what the bigger channel, what if you're calling them influencers. Unfortunately, people that get big numbers are influencers too, and I don't like the way they market or push some of it. So to agree with Greg, or to go away from that side, is oh yeah, I mean, I'm someone that looks for value, and I just love cards, and it doesn't matter what card. And the cards he showed all right there, beautiful. I am a believer in the vintage autograph stuff. That NBA card collection I have, I'm looking for the Hall of Fame NBA autograph rookies. I think there's value there. It's not crazy price at the moment. At the National, I was going for sports cards, and this is, I bought a bunch of raw stuff, but this is a Batman from 1977, or is it 77?
66.
66. Thank you. Yeah, 1966. So anyways, yeah, that, and I bought a bunch of raw cards of that at the National, because that's where I found it spoke to me, and it just wasn't overpriced. So there are a lot of cool things out there. And especially, I like that Greg likes the old stuff, because that's kind of where I'm looking as well. And even now, we were on the live, we were looking at some current inserts that are serial number, that are selling for just, not a lot of money. And so you can collect some really neat things that aren't crazy price. The one thing Greg's showing all those cards is, I also find it's really easy to get caught up in a buy when you're like I didn't buy much last year, and I bought more than I normally would earlier this year in January and February. And it's so easy, because there is so much you want. There is so many cool things, and it's hard to stop yourself sometimes.
It really is. Absolutely. Jim here says, Jeremy, not just refractors, 90 inserts in general. Well, to be clear, I was talking about what Greg had told me that he was into, and he mentioned the refractors, but Jim is right. I mean, it's all 90s. When I got into 90s cards big time, because that was my slowest period in the hobby as a youngster, was that second half of the 90s, when I started discovering all the sports and all the 90s cards. I went on a bender, guys, in like about 2016 through 2020, and that bender ended up being very beneficial, which I'm grateful for. But an absolute bender, because there were so many. I'm still discovering new insert sets, parallels from that era. But there's another era that I think is understood, underknown, is like that first 5 years, not even 5 years, that first like 3 or 4 years of the 2000s, right before exquisite basketball came out. And like it was really the coming out of patch cards and memorabilia cards and relics. And that's an era that I've also recently gotten into from a hockey perspective. The company Pacific made some amazing cards. And back in those days, I was collecting, but I was like, no, not for me. And I kind of regret that I wasn't open to it back then. To Greg's original point, which is, I thought I was an Upper Deck guy, and I was, and I still am. I love Upper Deck product, but I love some of these Pacific cards too from that early era. The checklist, the weird numbering, but back then I couldn't. Maybe I was too attached to my perceived identity, so I wasn't willing to go there. And I wouldn't put that all together if it wasn't for Greg kind of bringing that to top of mind right now. But that's another era that I think is really interesting, is that early 2000s. And then John here says what I've said this a million times, not influencers, inspirers, right? Like we being everybody who puts out cards that they own. You put out a post on Instagram, you do a video on YouTube talking about a card that you just got that you love. Maybe it's a theme you're chasing, or a set, or a player you're collecting, whatever it is. You are going to inspire somebody out there one way or another. I've been inspired by the smallest YouTuber, I don't mean small, like by someone with very few subscribers and views. I've been inspired by the smallest Instagram account with 15 followers just getting started. And I'm out there shopping because of what they showed on their post, their content. And it gets me excited, because I never maybe I never appreciated the item, the card, whatever it is enough. And they went and told a story and shared the relevance of it with me. And that got me going down the rabbit hole to where I now maybe have a few cards in my collection that represent that lane. So I think it's a great topic, Greg. Why don't you come back with your follow-up now?
Yeah, the thing that's going through my head right now is part of the fun, though, is it doesn't have to be buying. You don't have to buy to be a participant in a new arena. You don't have to just start going, buy it now, buy it now, buy it now. Part of the fun is the research and the data diving and the digging into what are the important cards from that era? What are the important sets from that era? Not just everything is created equal. I mean, if you haven't listened to Chris Hoge's drop from, what was it, Friday? He went on like an hour and 45 minutes talking about how he was coming up with the values of that Jordan card. And I'm sure you'll ask him about it later. But it was just it was like a dissertation on how to think about what you're buying, how important it is, where does it fall, what is the price of it. And to me, like listening to how other people do that and think in the hobby, not just what do they like, but how do they think and how do they rank things and how do they decipher from all the stuff that's out there what's worth getting. And that's the thing, is when I go into this pre-war, turn of the century vintage cards that are non-sport, like there's a lot to learn. And part of that learning and diving into that for me is the fun. And I end up making spreadsheets and I go, okay, there's these cards and then there's this set. This is an important set. This is a less important set. Here's the pop counts from those sets. I mean, I always knew that Card Ladder was a great data tool. And then this past couple of weeks, as I've been doing all of this like data diving and researching of all of these 90s refractors and 90s inserts, I'm like, I started doing it my old way. And I was like, wait a second, I have Card Ladder. And I opened up my Card Ladder and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is saving me insane amounts of time. It just makes all of that more fun. And so I enjoy geeking out on the research part of it and digging into things of what's important, what's not important, why is it not important, and asking questions to people. So I hear what you're saying, because I do want to buy everything, but I want to buy the right things. I don't want to just buy things. And so learning about what is the right thing and what is worthy of my money is a lot of fun. And so
the right
I would
thing
say
for you, though, Greg, right? Learning what the right thing is for you. And
right.
that can be hard to understand, right? Sometimes you actually have to make a mistake or just learn the lesson. You have to actually go down a lane, buy a few cards, have them arrive, look at them, enjoy them, sit with them for a while. And you're excused if you decide that you don't like those. You know what? I tried it. It wasn't for me. Maybe you might decide, you might decide you want to start eating more seafood. It might just not sit well. You're going to move away from it. I'm trying to do a Greg analogy here. You did mention Chris Hoge. There's a lot of people in the comments saying a few things. Like Tony says, his video was amazing. It does influence me and how I think. Yeah. And Hobby Champ says, I think it's impossible for any Chris Hoge video not to influence people. The fact of the matter is that Chris Hoge is the hobby's finest articulator and organized thinker. Like he is number one. There's and I don't think there's a close second to the way that he gets his ideas across. So when he puts out a thought piece like that, which is basically every Hogecast, you have to be mentally prepared to listen to that, because you can't do it passively. You said maybe I'll ask him about it later. I can't. I haven't listened to the latest Hogecast. Oh. I had it on last night as I was literally signing and packaging books, Greg. I couldn't focus enough to get enough out of it because I was distracted by even though I was doing something that was somewhat mindless. I had to think about it, make sure it's right, etc. I couldn't give it the attention it requires to soak up the knowledge that man spews. So
It's like it's like a Harvard professor doing a lecture on how to think about cards. And I tell my students all the time, and I'm not a Harvard professor. I'm a dime a dozen teacher. And I'm telling my students, put your phones away, put your headphones away. I need your undivided attention. Well, you really need your undivided attention for what Hoj was saying if you're going to actually soak in some of it, because it was really, really good. I texted him. I never do this to him, but I texted him directly, like, dude, that was so good.
I do that sometimes too when I'm out listening to podcasts. Unfortunately for me, it's so late, and the guys on the East Coast, I can't call and say that was a great episode. But I hear you on that. Jason, anything you want to jump in with before I go to some comments?
No, yeah, real quick on just from, I agree with Greg that 80-90% of the fun is the research, is finding what's for you, is finding. The problem is, so for instance, I found a new Topps Finest WWE insert set I like, and the serial number cards are anywhere from, I don't know, $10 to $50. It's a 27 card set. And so you find yourself, unfortunately, I found myself, okay, I need this one. And then it adds up so quickly. Or for instance, I want the NBA Hall of Fame rookie autos. I got a Kevin McHale for $120. I get a George Gervin for $150. And they're affordable. There's something, but it adds up quickly. So you do have to stay disciplined, I guess, because, yeah, so I would just, there is a way where you could easily, it's easy to get in buy mode when you start finding things you like. It's hard to stay, it's important to stay disciplined, I guess.
And very difficult. And I go to shows now and people like to ask anything you're looking for in particular, which is, it's just such a funny question to ask somebody walking around a card show, because unless your inventory covers a very wide range of genres and eras, it's like, what are the unless you're literally peering into their showcase and spending time there, it's a bit different. But I find things all the time that are just like, man, I wish I had the capacity to add that to what I'm collecting, but there's just too much stuff. Go ahead.
Hey, Hobby Champs, I'll buy those Vince McMahon rookie cards from you. I mean, he was already in a far worse scandal than that. So if you want to get rid of them, I'll buy them.
All right. Joe says micro eras. I like that term, as far as there being several eras within the overall eras, which no one can agree on. Anyway, Hobby Champ says 90s are innovation era, 88 to 04. Almost anything you can think of in the hobby started during that time frame. Pretty true right there. Michael Rader says that's a beautiful thing about this hobby. There are so many avenues you can take, enjoy what you like, and find new things that you like. Yeah, I'm glad that I continue to find new things. I feel very fortunate about that. Vintage says, how does Barry Sanders not get hobby love? I think he gets some, but probably not enough. But let's read the rest of the comment. His 90s inserts sell for more than anyone, including Rice, my favorite football player ever. I don't. So you're saying, how does he not get hobby love, but his 90s inserts sell for more than anyone? That seems a little bit of a internal contradiction there. I'm not sure. Dan the Card Man is saying hello to everyone on the screen. So there we go. I know that people are waiting for a hey now for sure. Yeah, Greg, it's a great topic, man, for sure. And that was the driver behind part of the title of this episode, which is, what are collectors scared of? Why are we scared to try new things and to kind of walk outside of our hobby personas or our identities that we have created for ourselves? And maybe it might just be normal human psychology. We know ourselves better than anybody does, and we might think that people know us the same way that we do, but I think that's just completely not true. For every person out there, there's another version of yourself and how they exist in that, because of how they exist in that person's mind. So I don't know if it has to do with the identity that we see for ourselves. And Greg, I'll get your thoughts on where you were going with this, or is it the identity that we think people have of us? And maybe that applies more to people who are actually more public with their collecting. So that could be the difference there. But that was the driver behind that one part of the title. What are collectors scared of? There were two other parts to this title for this show. One is the Coffin Card debate, which we can talk about. Well, we should. And then yeah, well, I'll just stop there. So before we move on to a new topic, because I want to do that now, final comments from you, Greg, is this was kind of your topic to wrap it up.
I just think that at the end of the day, I hope that everybody is open-minded to all of the opportunities out there, and they don't put up walls that could prevent them from moving into an area that I think they'd find a lot of joy in, because I think they'd be missing out. I think guidelines are good. I think railings along the edges to keep us from going off edges, that's all good. But I also hope that some people are willing to pivot a little bit and at least explore for a minute before they come back, because I know I'm not alone in a lot of people enjoying new areas that they collect. The last little mini story I'll tell is my dad put together a 1959 and 1960 top set, and he built a set of each that was a PSA 8 or above of every single card in the set. And he did that back in the 90s when grading was starting up. And at one point, I think his 60 set was like the number 3 ranked one on the PSA registry for a while. He retired the set. He ended up selling the set off. But recently, he's been getting into the 53 top set, the 54 top set, and he had never owned those before. And I asked him, I go, Dad, why didn't you collect those years ago? Like, he's been to like 15 nationals. Like, why didn't you buy those cards then? He goes, I only collected 59s and 60s. I would go to the national. I would look at the case. If there were no 59s and 60s, I went to the next case.
Yeah.
He goes, I had to be focused. And if I wanted to build a collection of that level, then I needed to stay focused. And then he's taken his focus off and he's having more fun than he's ever had. And I just want to make sure other people do the same, or at least give themselves the opportunity to do it.
I wish I had the foresight to know what I'd want to collect in a year from now, 2 years, 5, 10, 20 years, because I'm buying cards now that I could have bought a lot cheaper in the olden days, when they were newer or whatever, before we got to where we are now. But I don't know what I'm going to want to own in or collect in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now. It's really just tough to do that. So, okay, couple here. Dan's Vintage says, so broad collecting is good now. I collect broadly. I'm in several lanes in the hobby. I think collecting broadly is good, but like Greg just said, have some barriers up. Try to minimize the mistakes that you're going to make. Speaking of mistakes, Joe Perot says it's hard not to make a few mistakes along the way, but the mistakes help us in the long run. It's like hobby tuition. That's true. I've experienced it where I do start collecting something like, you know what? I don't like this as much as I thought I was going to. It happened to me with some like stained glass baseball inserts that I was buying. I forget the name of them, but they look like stained glass. I had about 12 of them maybe. I'm like, you know what? I don't like these as much as I thought I did. I got rid of them. Now I know. But what to Joe's point, what that did for me is it made me realize that you got to really think about these things, and I made a pretty impulsive play at that West Coast Card Show for those vintage memorabilia, modern Hall of Fame cards. But I was just so certain about it in the moment. And now I find I made an offer today on a card I'm hoping to buy to add to that collection. So, but it's easy to make mistakes. And then Jeremy from California says, Ross pivoted in Friends several times. Yes. He did. Thank you, Brian. He calls out the Gallery of Heroes. Those are them, Brian. They're beautiful cards. I just couldn't get excited enough about them. So I'm no longer collecting those, but some people certainly do. That's for sure. All right. I got a new topic. We're going to be actually, I think Joe's going to come back on in about 10 minutes. But the other topic, and I don't know if I put anything out about this, but I wanted to talk about the concept of a coffin card. Get your guys' thoughts on this. Get the thoughts from the chat on this. I forget if this happened in a private chat group I'm in on Instagram. I think that might have been where it happened. I think that's where it happened, actually. Oh, we'll talk about this when Josh Adams comes on later as well. Yes, it was Josh Adams that raised the topic, so I should probably wait for him. But I'll give everyone a preview, and you two as well, because I don't think you guys will be on when Josh is on a little bit later. But the concept of a coffin card. First of all, just nod. Have you heard this term before? Jason? No. Greg has. It's a card that you take to the coffin. You die, you take it with you to your coffin. Yeah. So it's like the strongest of diamond hands is what it is. It's like, this is a card I love so much, I will never sell it. So
is it metaphorically?
Well, that's what I'm going to get into, Jason.
Okay,
So hear me out. Hear me out. I thought that the term coffin card meant you'll hold it till you die. You'll let your family sell it off and get the money out of it. That's what I thought it meant. But I actually think there's people that actually believe it to mean that you're actually going to get buried with it, which to me, I'm going to say it, like, this is not me disrespecting how you collect. This is me disrespecting how you die. The concept of a literal coffin card is just plain stupid. Now, I don't know. I'm sure there's an argument against that. Well, it does make sense. I love it so much. I want it with me in the afterlife. Okay. If you believe in that all the power to you. But I think to me, a coffin card means you're just going to own the card until you're going to die with it, but you're not going to be buried with it. So, and then, yeah, that's really the a bit of the comment about it, because the comment that somebody made was, it's antithetical to collecting. It doesn't make sense if you're going to collect to die with the card, because cards are meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to be passed on and to have a life of their own, which I don't know that I don't know that I believe that for every card out there, but I'm open to the discussion. So I'll park my thoughts there. Jason, let's go to you.
I'm very amused by this. Yeah, you told me no cussing on the show. I have such an emphatic feeling for this one. I would be using words so dumb. Now where I'd switch lanes, like, if you want to bury yourself with a $10 card, I have this Deion Sanders card. I think it's one of the coolest cards, and it's $12. There's many of them. Fine, man. But if you're gonna bury yourself with an expensive Grail card, what a way! You're gonna take 5,000 cash to the grave. I think it's ludicrous, ridiculous. Let the cards be out there for others to enjoy. If you want, our Blue Red Master's one of our main cards. He's a huge Con Knipple guy. Sure, if he wants to take a $1 Con Knipple card to the grave with them, fine. Other than that, it's absolutely ludicrous. I hope they're given, if it's an expensive collection or card, do something else with it.
Greg, where do you land on the coffin card concept?
I don't understand. From a literal standpoint, putting a card in your coffin, I think is ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense to me. I just can't get on board with that. But a card that I keep until I die, like, I absolutely have tons of respect for that. A lot of cards are very emotional. We have emotional connections too, and there isn't an amount of money that could pry that card away. I talk about a couple of those in the book, a couple of cards that I would never sell under any circumstance. I don't know the amount of money. I mean, unless it was going to generationally change our family's financial future, I just don't see the point in that. So I love emotional connections to cards where you wouldn't ever want to sell the card, but putting a card that has any sort of value into a coffin, I think, is not something I would plan on doing.
Can you tease us to one of those cards you'd never sell?
Sure. My dad found a card from his childhood collection in the wild 30 years later. And I tell the story of how that happened.
Like the same exact card?
His card. And he knows 100% that it's his card. Chapter 3. The needle in the haystack. Yeah.
Good tease.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, right? And we got some great comments. So let's turn to those for a moment. Ben Burrow said, "My dad always told me you only love a card if you want it to rot in the cold, hard ground with your disgusting dead body." Hey, listen, there's a difference between wanting that to happen and actually being crazy enough to do it. Decoy Card says, "Gravediggers in 40 years, business is booming." Yeah, no, absolutely. Lonely Basement says, "Your family will not put the 52 mantle in the coffin. whether you whether you like it or not. Alex Hyde says Emmett Smith does not get enough hobby love. Maybe he's a bit behind in the show, but that's okay. Alex, good to have you here. Jim Scholl says, Jeremy, I've been with my 1971 top set longer than any woman. And yes, I want to be buried with my black beauties. Do you really though, Jim? Do you really? I'm serious. Do you really? Tony says, to me, a coffin card just means it's a card that never leaves my PC. It will be passed on to my kids. It won't actually be placed in my coffin. That's what it means to me as well, Tony. Absolutely. Here's a funny one from Chris C. He says, I'm going to be frozen with my Ted Williams. Someone had mentioned, what does it mean if I'm going to be cremated? Yeah, you got to figure that out for yourself. Dan says, is it okay to have a coffin card if you're a vampire? I think so, Dan. I think that makes a lot of sense to me because you're going to get out of that coffin the next day or whenever you come out of hibernation. I don't exactly know how vampire culture really does work. So hell yeah, no doubt, says Jim. He wants to be buried with his cards. So there's somebody who actually wants to be buried with his cards. Listen, I don't have to respect it, but good.
You crazy.
You crazy. But you know what? I wonder, like, and I want to convince Jim otherwise, because wouldn't you like those cards instead of rotting? Wouldn't you, and being eaten by the worms? Wouldn't you rather they be enjoyed long? If you love them that much, it's like a woman, right? If you love her that much, let her go, sort of thing, right? You know, if you break up with your girlfriend and you're heartbroken, but she's not, but you really did love her, don't you want her to just go off and be happy? Don't you want your cards to go off and be happy, Jim? Live a happy life, and someone else
playing with us. He's playing with us.
I don't know, Jason. I really don't know if he's playing. I mean, I think I see some people actually want that. Tony says, I want a coffin that is made out of card slabs. Just slab me up. Just slab me up. That's a good one. That's a really good one there, Tony. Absolutely. All right, guys. What else is going on? I feel like we've run some of these topics into the ground by now, but the chat is still going off, so we can still definitely go back to some of them. Greg, I had in my notes here for you channel evolution. So I kind of don't remember why I wrote that down. Do you?
Yeah. So what I was saying is, and when you had started we had talked about this a little bit on my interview with you this week, but when you started the Hobby Spectrum website, I had kind of said, did you think it would be what you originally planned it would be, or is it evolving into something different than you had originally planned? And what I said was, that's how I kind of feel a lot of our channels are, is we don't know what our channels are until we discover what our channel is by doing our channel. And I think that we all have a different thing that we bring to the table. And there are things that Jason does that I watch, and things that Jason does, I go, this isn't for me. But what he does is what he does. And I don't think when he said, I'm going to start a channel, he was thinking he was going to do a live stream every Tuesday and Wednesday night. But now this is where he is, and he's found his sweet spot. He's found the place that works for him. And I think that a lot of channels and a lot of collections do that. And part of my thought is, you don't know what your collection is going to be. You can't plan it. It just happens. And Hoj even was talking the other day about how he started getting into one-of-one Jordans over the last year or two, is all it's been. So that he's gotten into one-of-one Jordans, and he's been collecting a long time, but now that's one of the pillars of his collection. And I don't think we know what we're going to love until we start to see it. I mean, I've got a box full of pirate cards right there.
I know,
I didn't even know what those were a year and a half ago. I freaking love those things.
Those are cool.
It's like it's like I was saying, Greg, just before that, you know, I wish I knew what I'd want to collect in 10 or 20 years. Yeah. I don't know where it's, and you're right about
that's part of the fun, right? It's part of the fun.
Exactly. And the other thing that you said is that, you know, about Jason being now he settled into Tuesday and Wednesday, the format of his show, it's going to change again. I guarantee him.
That's right.
I guarantee you his channel will continue to evolve, just like yours has, Greg. Just like mine. I mean, I did the same. I did pretty much the same type of show for the first 250 something episodes of Sports Cards Live. And then it organically changed 2 Novembers ago to this new SCL 2.0, where we're bringing on more people and going for long. Like that just happened. I honestly, going into November of 2024, I did not know that coming out of November, the whole format of Sports Cards Live was going to change. But these things just happen. And that's one of the greatest gifts we have, is the gift of the unknown. I think that's what keeps us going in many ways. And I like, Greg, how you expanded it from channel to collection.
Yeah,
because we touched on that. Yeah, go.
And I think that for me, there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks and a lot of videos, at least in the vintage card community, about like, do card values matter? Should we care about card values? Should we not? And there's a lot of people that have opinions on that. But I think where I stand on that topic is, I think card values should at least matter some, because you don't know what your collection is going to be in 10 years. And you likely will want to use the capital in what you have now to move into the thing that you actually are most passionate about. And so if you don't care about the values, and again, I know this is a polarizing topic and I'm not trying to be polarizing about it, but I think that I care about getting a decent deal, about getting a card that I like, but I also rarely buy something like this. Like, this is a one of one black finite of my buddy Matt Manning, my student, who
you were telling me that story.
Yeah, he actually just, he just is getting Tommy John surgery because he just tore his arm up in Korea, playing in the Korean League. And I've got his one of one cards. And you know why I wanted these one of one cards the most? Because of Hoge's influence on me. I'm like, yeah, that is the ultimate chase. Those cards are special. There was one of those. And I hear guys like that, but I don't care about the value of this card, because this card's never going anywhere unless it's going to Matt's son. But I'll tell you this, on the rest of my cards, I don't know what my collection is going to be in 5 or 10 years. And I want to have the opportunity to use what I have now for the thing of where my collection goes. Just like, Jeremy, the way you were able to make the huge purchase that you made a year ago was through card capital. And that allows us to go after the things that we're most passionate about. And so to summarize all of it, is card evolution is the reason that I think card value should matter to everyone, at least somewhat, because we don't know where we're headed until we get there. And you want to use that. So that's my take. And that's kind of how I thought that played in.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, I wanted, because I thought what you said was really deep about, I don't know, 5 or 6, going back to the evolution, because first we all have channels, and maybe so it's insightful, but my channels evolved 5, 6, 7 times over the years before I found a lane or my niche or what I enjoy. And I do think they will, if you're not evolving, you're doing something wrong. And then when you also put it to the collection, it's the same thing. Yeah, you're gonna find different things. You're gonna get attracted by different things. So yeah, I just thought that was pretty deep, that there is an evolution. There will with the channels and collections. Yeah, I thought that was a deeper topic than a lot. Yeah, there is a lot of evolution that goes on.
If you're not evolving, you're devolving. I would say you're if you're not learning, open-minded, you're dying. You're not living. And the other thing that I always recommend to people, because I learned this myself, is you have to give yourself permission to dispose of cards that you have fallen out of love with, or that you never loved in the first place, that you maybe loved more than you actually did. Maybe you were just inspired or whatever, for whatever reason. It's liberating when you can actually sell cards, move out of cards, trade away cards that you're like, I don't like looking at these anymore. Maybe I loved them 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it is, but I just don't anymore. Why not give yourself permission to sell them? Don't worry if someone in a chat somewhere is going to call you a flipper. Who cares? Let people, move out of cards if you want to. Take in the money and use that money to buy new cards, or do whatever you want with that money. But I think that it's once you sell something for the first time, and give yourself that permission. And listen, it's not for everybody. Some people don't ever want to sell anything, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Especially if you got the money to buy what you want, to buy other things. Doesn't mean you can't evolve, but if selling is going to help you evolve, I highly recommend that people give it a shot. But maybe I shouldn't say I recommend it, because it's so based on the individual to do what makes them.
Do you guys feel like there's a negative stigma around selling in the hobby? Do you feel like sell, because you're saying give yourself permission to sell and people are going to call you a flipper. Like, I have felt at times like there's a negative connotation around selling a card in my collection. Do you guys feel like you've ever experienced that?
Jason?
I have not, the flipping thing sucks, and I think we all believe in a little shillings going on, but no, I don't. I think that's a common. I think you're being hypocrite. People that collect often go away from stuff and move into other stuff. You buy it, you enjoy it, you find something else in order to afford something else. You get rid of some of your collection, you get into something else. So I don't really have. I don't view it that way, but that is an interesting thing to hear.
Yeah, Greg, I think there is. I think some people do, look down on people that there's like this pride that people have. Well, where when they will say, I've never sold a single card, and they say it with pride, and it's because they're proud of that. And by all means, I'm proud of you too, that you've never sold a card. That means that every card you've ever made is the right decision. And that you don't, and that you're so focused, and you're so into what you like. You're so deep in your lane that you just love it. I wish that I could love every card I've ever bought, but I guess I'm just not that personality.
And you can only have so much room. I mean, I have a room full of stuff. Eventually, it accumulates quick.
There's that too. And then there's, like Greg said, maybe a big card comes up you want to buy. You don't want to put family savings into it, so you got to go to the card capital and extract value out of there so you can evolve your collection. So, but yeah, Greg, I think it comes back to, we got collectors and we got the hobby spectrum, right? Collectors, the purists, likely don't want. Here, we're just going to flip Joe onto the screen. Joe, I'm going to bring you on. You good? You got the purists who don't want to sell anything a lot of the times, versus the people on the other side of the spectrum who make a living off of buying and selling cards. And then, but one thing that I find awkward is that, some people that do convey their negative their negative approach or opinion on selling are people who have great relationships with card dealers. Like every time you buy a card from somebody at a card show, that person is a flipper, a dealer, maybe a collector too. So there's all sorts of hypocrisy going on if people do take that stance, I think. But hey, people are going to have their thoughts on things, and they do, and that's great. And so yes, in essence, Greg, I think there is a negative stigma that some people push out into the universe when it comes to selling cards. But I think it's part of the process. I think it's part of the process of refining I'm in a constant refinement of my collection. And it's like what makes me happy in the hobby, finding new things. And sometimes I like to have a clean environment. I like to be organized. So I want to push things out so I can maintain that level of organization, just how I choose to exist. Yeah. Jason,
do you think it's breakers and flippers that possibly add or why help give sellers a negative vibe, or is that a connection there?
It's an interesting question. I think that I don't necessarily think so. I think that's a whole different sort of category. But it's a reasonable question, and maybe there is some connection there, Jay. Like correlation wise, I don't think it's very strong. I think it's under a 25% correlation, maybe even under 10. Maybe it's like 10% or something like that. But it's an interesting topic. I want to think about that one more. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I mean, I think the strand that connects it is people trying to, gain a financial advantage and or capitalize on a transaction. And so I see a similarity there. And I think, it's so funny because I think, myself included, like I think we all are interested in wielding our collection in ways that allow us to buy more and or add to our collection. And yet occasionally in the hobby, there's the shadow side of us, pointing out that that's capitalistic or that's predatory or in some way wrong. And I think in that way, occasionally we might be hypocritical if we're calling out other people making a buck. That said, there's obviously people that are doing it in a way that is more extreme and maybe even in ways that are not exactly honest. So that becomes obviously an issue. But anyway, yeah, good to be back with you guys.
welcome back. Welcome. Yeah. How was the walk? I was good.
Good. Nice night out.
Very nice. Very nice. We'll do a couple comments here, guys, because there's a few here. First of all, Jeremy Filippelli, nice comment to the screen, says, hello to everyone. And I got all my favorite hosts in one spot. My 3 favorite channels, Sports Cards Live, Midlife Cards, and Sports Card Professor. Thank you, Jeremy Filippelli. Hobby Champ says, I love Greg's new channel with Mike. They're like Gumble and Gumble, but funny. Laurel and Laurel with cards, one of my favorite hobby shows. That's very nice. Hobby Hoops Hangout says, Hoops Hobby Hangout says, I think there's a negative stigma in trying to maximize your return on a sale. I'm not saying it's right, but I almost feel negative about it myself. If I tried to squeeze every drop of juice from the lemon, I think that's fair. I think there is some negative connotation on trying to, extort funds from buyers, but there's always other choices. Although I put a pretty fun post on Instagram today just to see what the reaction would be. For anyone who didn't hear it, I'll read that to you guys right now, actually, because again, I think it was fun. I wrote this. I wrote, collect what you like, but if what you like is to own all of the cards of a print run, so like all 10 copies of a card that is out of 10 from a set or player that other people want to collect too, I don't have to respect that, and I will hold the last card ransom from you for an exorbitant price if I find it first. Not saying I'm actually going to do that. I just wanted to see what people thought about that topic, and I got some great responses. Shared a bunch of them to my story, but I think there's 2 things. There's people who are literally trying to get every last drop out of the card because it's what they do, but it's short-sighted. It doesn't help you build relationships. It doesn't build you a good reputation as a dealer in the hobby. The better advice, which people have told me as I was coming up as a card show vendor, is leave some meat on the bone for the next guy. Okay, but if the next guy is a collector, do you need to leave meat on the bone? At the end of the day, right now, everybody at the card show buying for whatever wants meat left on the bone. So I don't know. It's a fun thing to think about. More so than I have a very solid take on it for myself. 2 more comments, and we'll go around the horn here. Ben Burrow says, I don't think anyone has the right to judge why, when, or how anyone else collects or sells cards. Listen, I mean, I think there is a point where I think that I agree with Ben, but not as absolutely as he does. I think there is a point where it can be certain things can be offensive, and I'm not like having
backyard breaks.
What's that?
Backyard breaks.
I think we're
not talking that. Okay.
We're thinking more about just like the secondary market singles world versus the break. I know there's all sorts of drama in the breakers world, and Jason, I don't keep on top of it. I don't know it like you do. But yeah, I think that's a whole different topic. And then Chris C says negative connotation comes from short-term flippers. I think most people don't have a problem with someone who has something sit on in their collection for many years, and I think and then wants to go move. But yeah, short-term flippers, well, they're part of the ecosystem too. But and I'm not endorsing or condemning. I'm just saying they are part of the reality. And if one piece of the ecosystem goes down, what happens to the rest of it? I don't know the answer to that. But let's go around the horn and get Joe. Let's go to you. And what do you say?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've mostly expressed on this topic. Why don't we pass it to Greg?
Yeah, G.
I mean, I think that I've said my piece on all of it. I don't disagree with anything that you just said, Jeremy. And I agree mostly with Burroughs. I think that when somebody sells, I think that some people's hobby is a different type of hobby than my hobby. Some people's hobby is gambling, which includes my hobby and it overlaps with my hobby, but it's not like a card collector. They're not card collectors. They're people who are trying to find, like you said, meat on the bone, and they're always looking for a different spot that there's meat on the bone. I don't love that part because what it does is it does jack up prices for the people who are in it for collecting. But at the same time, I don't really think it's my place to say they shouldn't use my hobby for something that they find joy in. So that's the only kind of difficult part for me. But for the most part, I don't really care how other people do it as long as they're doing it ethically.
I love that. That's how I come. That's where I land. I agree with you. I agree with Ben's comment for the most part as well. Like 98% of it, I'm there. So, and it comes down to if you're going to buy, sell, or trade, or I don't care how you collect or interact or transact in the hobby, as long as you're doing it ethically, you're not going to offend me. People have a right to come into this hobby, this space, this industry, and try and make money. There's no reason that they can't do it, except that some people don't want them to do it. So, and Hoops Hobby Hangout says, and why do we need to leave meat on the bone for the dealer or flipper, but not the collector who wants to add to their collection? I get it, but it seems like a double standard. It really does. And the only, like, as a dealer, the only time that I do that is like, we'll give a deal to a wholesaler. The only time when I'm willing to wholesale is when I just want to dump the cards. If I don't want these anymore, and you're my best chance to sell them, and I'm into them good, I'm willing to leave meat on that bone because I just don't want to take the cards home with me, sort of thing. Jason, you look like you're itching to jump in.
Yeah, well, my question again, I didn't realize there'd be a negative stigma. I don't view it that way. So my brain goes to why. And so for, why is there a negative stigma? Because it's how the card industry always works. A hobby works. People are there isn't a card hobby without people selling. So my question is why? So my immediate thought, okay, breakers and flippers, fine. And then, weekly I get sent on $100 cards, $80, not extremely expensive cards where people are showing me that they feel they were shill bid on eBay, zero, many bids of zero feedback. And so I'm just trying to figure out why there's a negative stigma, because almost all of it, even me as mainly a true collector, there's of course times you move on from stuff or have to sell stuff. So I don't know, as we're talking about it, and I'll continue to think about it, over the next few days, is just where does that come from? Why is there a negative stigma towards selling certain things? The only reason I could think of it is the shill bidding or people doing shady stuff, and it gets connected because it is a general part of the hobby. There has to be sellers to buy anything.
I think a lot of it is just because there's a large contingent of the hobby that has a large sense of entitlement for things, is one thing I believe. And I think there's also a bit of a get off my lawn sort of mentality as well.
What do you mean by the entitlement part? What do you dive a little deeper into that?
I think, well, first of all, I don't want to go much deeper on this topic right now because we have a guest change coming up.
Oh yeah.
So, let me deal with that another time, Jason.
Yeah.
Good question, but I just don't have my head in the space right now to dive any deeper and really analyze my own thoughts on that. So thanks for the question. I appreciate it, but we're going to move on. Okay. So we have Josh and Chris in the back. We're going to bring them on. We're going to say good night and thank you to Jason, Professor Sports Cards. It's been great having you on, Jason.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, did enjoy having you and look forward to continuing more of your content. So thank you for joining. And guys, say goodbye to Jason, fellas.
Hey, thank you for having me.
See you, buddy.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Fun to hang out.
We'll talk.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you for coming on. All right, now, Greg, how about you? I want to bring on. We're going to bring on Josh and Chris. I'd like you to say hello. But if you're good, are you good? And will you join us in the chat afterwards?
I'll stick around, but at the same time, I know 5 on the screen is a lot for you. So you probably want me off, and this is your nice way to ask me off. So I'd love to say hello and then head to the chat so that your screen isn't jammed.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's been great having you on. As always, hanging out with you is a pleasure. So thank you for coming on. And for everybody who is not yet out there, has not yet there it is in the ticker now. You can purchase Greg's book. There's a quick weird link to it, but all you got to do is go to Amazon and search card collecting stories or midlife. It's going to come up. Check out Greg's book on Amazon, everybody. He'll be at the Strongsville Independence Show next month, about a month from now, just over a month from now. So go meet Greg there if you haven't yet. And of course, check out all of his YouTube channels. Greg, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, guys. And to the two coming on, I'll see you guys soon too. Hey, the National is coming soon. I'll get to see both you guys there. So thanks for having me, Jeremy.
Thanks, Greg. We'll see you soon, pal. Thank you so much. Before we bring on Joe, I have two more sponsors that I need to shout out and want to shout out. So I'm going to start with Mint Inc., guys. Mint Inc. delivers the ultimate hobby experience from live one-off streams and auctions to grading, breaks, and 2 full retail locations in the Greater Toronto area. They do it all. They're buying collections 7 days a week. Click the link in the description below and use promo code SCL5 for 5% off your first purchase. You can shop online anytime with worldwide shipping. Mint Inc., where collecting comes to life. And guys, grading is expensive. Tying up your time, money, and assets. Get it right with Mr. Minty. Mr. Minty offers a full line of 100% substance-free pre-grading supplies, grade prep and evaluation services, and concierge drop-off and pickup PSA and BGS submissions, all designed to help collectors save time and money in the expensive grading process. Meet Mr. Minty in person at shows across the country. For more information, go to mrminty.com and save 25% off your products using promo code SCL25. Happy collecting and keep it minty. And thank you to all sponsors and partners of Sports Cards Live. I could not do this without them. Joe, let's bring on Mr. Chris McGill, who is now off the IR, and Mr. Joshua Adams. Guys, welcome back, both of you. Chris, we'll start with you. Welcome back, buddy. Been too long.
Great to be back. Thank you, Jeremy.
Josh, you took the week off last week. You were at what card show were you out last week?
2 weeks ago. I was in Kansas City 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, Kansas
City. I was here
City.
last week. I don't know if you remember.
Were you on?
Yeah, it was very memorable for me too. Christopher, glad to see you're back off the injured reserve list.
Oh boy.
Thank you. Great.
Joe, how was the pizza?
Oh, it was good. It was quite delicious. Thank you.
Good.
Josh, will I see you at the Midwest Spectacular next weekend?
Yes, I am setting up. We'll have a table.
Nice.
Yeah,
Sweet.
are you coming?
I'm gonna come in for at least a day. Yeah.
Yes, Ari's going to be there, so it'll be fun.
What?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me he was coming in.
Yeah.
Turn his plane back around.
I know.
Coming in from California.
Yep.
Wait,
Ari,
Josh, you're friends with Ari?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I hung out with Ari quite a bit. On Saturday night trade night, Ari and I were like closing down the joint in Ontario, and he taught me a lot about Kobe cards, and guy has a lot of knowledge.
Joe,
Yeah.
you were in rare form at the trade night. It was amazing.
wish
You and I
was
played
there.
a little one-on-one basketball with a mini ball. Do you remember that?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Ari was the one who gifted me my 1975 Topps Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the West Coast Card Show. So that guy's just got friends everywhere.
He does.
You win. You
What a
win.
great
Where's
guy.
my Kareem?
What a great guy for sure. So, Chris, well, good to have you back. As you might have heard me mention, I had you on, but I could not fully focus. But this is the first time you've been on, I think, since the end of the MJ 101 auction on Heritage that you were very focused on. We spent a lot of time talking about it several weeks ago. Give us the kind of the what you call the cliff notes on the whole thing, and maybe even I know it took you an hour and 45 minutes to do on your podcast, but let me ask you, instead of putting the pressure on you, let me ask you this: why did you not buy the card?
Well, to use a word that Joe used, I think, for the first time in Sports Cards Live history, Excelsior. The price just kept going ever upward. I had to look up what that word means.
What did you think going into the day? I remember because I feel like I in our chat, I think you made a comment earlier in the day, like the cards, like it's just dead on arrival sort of thing when it was stuck at like 650 or whatever. So speak to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really flying low, but it didn't. It ended up going in at the guide price, and yeah, I have like a whole podcast episode that kind of explains why I thought that was too high, and that's all it boils down to. And there's something to that idea, I think, especially like as a market is running high, and there's a lot of messaging in the hobby surrounding, you know. And it's understandable. We're all collectors. We're very excited. We all want to express how excited we are to add things to our collection. And if I don't get it now, maybe I'll never be able to get it. But there's a flip side to that coin, which is knowing when to tap out. Whether that's because of a personal budgetary constraint, I just can't afford it, or it's because I've analyzed things and I think that this is higher than I'm willing to pay for it, even if I can pay for it. I might have to move some mountains to do it, but I think there's something to that too, that sometimes, you know, and just because a price isn't right for me doesn't mean it's not perfect for somebody else, but sometimes I have to know when to tap out.
And that the fact that you did tap out, and now here we are a week later, since you've had a week to sort of unwind, I believe, from the whole experience. But this wasn't just a card you were going to buy. I mean, you went to work. You had fail safes in place in case you had to buy the card, and how you were going to do that and get it paid for, and going through your own collection. Like, you put a lot of, I can't imagine that you are thinking that the effort you put into potentially buying that card is all for naught. I have to think like you must feel like the exercise that you went through, which was multifaceted, the card itself, your own collection, financial, like how much better of a collector, of a person living in the, you know, a first world economy sort of thing, how much better, more prepared, what did you learn that transcends what you learned about the card itself and the hierarchy?
See, I love this angle. This is the angle that I think is the right angle, which is that I had a ton of fun talking about it. I'd sort of carved out a little name for myself as the guy who blabs about Michael Jordan 1-of-1s for hours on a small YouTube channel. So some content creators wanted to talk to me about it, which was awesome. I got a few invites to join a few shows to sort of talk about it, which like that, and that by itself is a really fun reward. So I got to talk about it. I got to talk about, you know, one of the coolest Michael Jordan cards ever made, I think, which is a really fun angle to this. And then it goes back to something Jason said earlier, and Greg was touching on it too. And this actually loops into one of the topics that I brought for tonight. If we get to it, if we don't, that's fine too. But the idea that the research is a lot of the fun. The research is a lot of the fun. The research can be so fun that I can get carried away in it. And I can just, you know, as soon as I start researching a category, all of a sudden I'm down the rabbit hole and I just want to convert my whole collection into this. And then it's good to pull back sometimes. But yeah, the research was a lot of fun. Talking about it was a lot of fun. Getting to see a card that special come to auction, which really belongs in a PC that's a bit more extravagant than mine anyway. So, you know, just kind of getting to just sort of be a spectator, a participant, all those things in that moment and sort of the hobby history. I don't want to make it sound more important than it was. It was just a card that sold at auction, but I was really happy and excited to be a part of it.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I think it's interesting, like that. I guess I want to dive a bit more though into like, next time this happens, are you? Oh, hold on, let me reframe this. I know that when you go down the path of a massive consolidation, you start to get comfortable with letting go of some cards. Did that happen to you in the process where you feel like, you know what? I in my mind, I had moved these cards. Was there any impact there for you related to that kind of thought process?
Well, that was a big problem, was that I just didn't, for a number of reasons, I didn't find that the value proposition made sense for me. You know, like when I looked and surveyed my collection, I just said I get way more bang for my buck. Even factoring in, like, it's so exciting to get a new card, and that can overwhelm. That can sort of make you, or at least for me, sometimes when a new card's on my radar, it makes it easier for me to sort of mentally kick out of or what's the word when a landlord, evict. If when I'm really excited about a new card, like I'll quickly sort of start evicting cards in my collection to make room for it.
Chris is human, guys. He forgets.
I was like stumbling around for that word for a minute. I'm still on the mend here, folks. But this time I didn't feel that energy, Jeremy. I really didn't. I wasn't excited to evict these cards, and in fact, I started thinking if this goes for the guide price, I like the cards I have now more than this one at the price, right? And the price is super important. Price is a big deal.
So okay, I'm glad you. I think I wrote you that next day or something, and I said, sorry you didn't get it, but I'm really happy you still have your cards for whatever reason, as a collector, as a friend in the hobby. Right. I'm glad you didn't do it. Now I want to go to Josh for a moment, because Josh was saying, "Do it, Chris, do it." So Josh, now that the auction's over, where do you stand right now? Do you think that? And now listen, I'm not going to ask you if you think Chris should have done that. What I'll ask you is, if you were to trade spots with Chris, would you have moved those mountains in order to acquire that card and give up what you would have had to?
So it's tough to answer, because a lot of those cards he has aren't my thing. So I'd have no problem moving a lot of like the Jokic and some of the other stuff. To me, that's a no-brainer. But like the other MJs would be hard. So, but that's a pretty unique card in terms of the pantheon of Michael Jordan cards. So I'd probably do it, because you can always get another PMG red. You can always get another GER. You can never get another 101, because hopefully it goes into someone's PC it's not gonna fall into the vortex. It's gonna go in someone's PC and you're not gonna see it again, which is what you want for a card like that. Just never see it again.
Yeah. So, but you would have done it. You think you would have done it
in a second.
In a second. Like, that's conviction right there. And that comes back to, like, everybody approaches this thing differently. Go ahead, Josh.
I'm also reckless. So, I make a lot of decisions, and like, just stick with them. You make a decision, stick with it. But that's my gut. I go with my gut.
The reason I was happy Chris didn't buy it, and why it's not my business that I didn't want him to do it, but I just didn't feel it was the right play. Even for Chris, I just didn't think. And part of it is because I feel like every card that you would have given up, Chris, or not every, but most of the cards you would have given up, you already put a lot of thought into. You have them for a very specific reason. You are a very deliberate collector. And I just thought there was too many deliberate pieces there to replace them all with only one. So that's part of the reason why, I'm glad you didn't make that move. And there's a great comment that Skeppy says, you can find yourself regretting letting go of cards before you've even let them go. That's insightful. It's true. Did that happen to you, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely did. I sort of had to go through the thought experiment of it. And you know what, Jeremy? Had I gone through with that plan, I updated my hobby spectrum profile a few days ago to add all the players that I collect, and I was able to fill in 5, and I had more even that I couldn't even add, right? But if I had gone through with this plan, I would have only had like one player on my hobby spectrum profile. So I like to cast a wider net. And you were talking about this earlier in the show about, how can you just collect one player, right? I do like to collect multiple players.
There might be an exception to that one player, and that's a player that has cards all over the place, like a Michael Jordan, where there's so many cards in different recent type eras. But anyway, we don't need to revisit that. So that's why I'm happy that you didn't, Chris. I want to congratulate you on keeping the cards in your collection. And before we and I have a question for Joe that's related to all this, but before we do that, I wanted to go to Hobby Champ's comment. He says, Chris, did you buy any other cards after the Jordan sold? Sometimes after I lose a big card that I really wanted, I'll go out and buy other cards I was interested to make myself feel better, almost like a retail therapy for not being able to pull the trigger or acquire your main target. Did you go through that psychological effect?
I didn't. No, I didn't. But I get it. I've definitely been there. I've definitely been there. But also I got so blown out of the water. Like if you listen to my little episode, you'll see that I wasn't really anywhere close to what it ultimately ended up selling for. So it was like,
Yeah.
that
Joe. So the question for you is, because we're friends and we talk a lot, all of us, and we're all like invested in Chris's experience there. I felt like I had mental, emotional investment in what you were going through, Chris, just because we talked about it. And, I care about you and your collecting. Joe, how did you feel when he didn't pull the trigger and make that massive shift to his collection?
Well, I woke up on the day that the auction closed with some excitement, which was strange because I think for the most part, I was more of a naysayer initially, but I found myself opening up to the idea that if the card fell to a certain price, that it could be a really awesome move. I could be totally behind it. And it doesn't matter if I'm behind it. I mean, ultimately, it was all about what Hoj wanted to do. But, I was vicariously experiencing, the upticks in price. Once it crossed, there was like about a half hour there where all of a sudden I assumed it was done. Like just because I had at least discerned in myself what I would look at as the upper delta of what Hoj would pay. And then, eventually Hoj confirmed that. But the other thing, because I'd gone through, for me, much lesser, but still like consolidations, the difference that I was interested to see is I was actually as fascinated about what would happen, like which cards would he pull to pay for it, had it gone at a reasonable price or a price that was in his at his level. And my situation is I was much more impulsive when I recently got the Curry gold vinyl. And that led to probably more impulsive selling off, which a few I regret, because I wanted to try and generate the cash quickly. So that was another kind of side story for me, which I didn't even really get to talk to Hoj much about, but like, how was he deciding which cards were going to go and what was going to be left? Was it just going to be Jordan? Was he truly going to sell off all big Jokic's, Doncic's, and God forbid CMC's? I don't mind if he lets Patrick Mahomes go, but come on now. So anyway, that whole, the value proposition, as he referred to it earlier, and also going through the process myself, I think what I learned from it, what I took away was, if and when you do identify a card, there is definitely an advantage to having a long on-ramp to consider what the assets that you're going to have to move in order to get it. And I didn't have that, and I made a few mistakes because I was in a time-sensitive crunch.
Huge benefit, Joe. I experienced that with the Joe Jackson maneuver last year. Lucky for me, I had a month to figure out. After I won the card, I had a month to figure out what I was going to sell to pay for it. Chris had, those heritage auctions, they go for basically 30 days or so, do they not? So you had a long time to kind of go, and you shared the experience with the community. We talked about it here for a couple hours one night, I believe. So yeah, I think I love how you said that, Joe, the on-ramp to decide what you're going to give up. For you, yeah, you bought a card, and then you bought a card impulsively and then had to make some tough decisions. But you know what, man? I look at what you did. I look at the cards you have now. Your collection, I think, is better than it was before. You've got some wonderful cards. So I don't really feel bad for you. I feel good for you too, Joe. Chris, did you have a kind of response to what Joe was saying?
Yeah, I've been there. I have huge regrets about when I consolidated into my Christian McCaffrey NT Shield auto 1-of-1, that I sold some other rookie 1-of-1s of his from sort of off brands that I just didn't have an appropriate appreciation for at the time. And now I've like had some changes of heart in how I collect. And I so wish I could go back and get some of those off-brand rookie year 1-of-1s that I gave up in the consolidation, especially because they went for really cheap anyway. And like, I was just in such a hurry to make sure that I completely, rebudgeted and refilled and like paid for the card using other cards. And now I just wish I would have held on to a few of them and not, but whatever, like, dude, my collecting path is littered with mistakes. So that's just, but that's that. I relate to that intimately.
Chris, I often say, like, when I miss out on a card or someone misses out on a card, you forget to bid, it goes too high. I always say, like, there's always more cards out there. This might be a case where that doesn't apply, though, in that 1-of-1 Jordan, because it's the 1-of-1. It is the apex card of your 72 1-of-1 project. Yeah. It is not my saying there's always more cards. Do you agree that it just does not apply to that to that card? There's no substitute, is there?
No, there's no substitute. That's right.
The thing. There's no substitute. Let's go to a few comments from the chat, guys. Here's a question for you, Chris. From Chris, he says, would you consider a low number Jordan like the 25 copies as a pivot? There are some low number cards that look, in my opinion, even better than some 1-of-1s. So I will add to Chris's question, are you looking for a pivot, Chris? But
I am not, but I have been quite tempted by a few of the 98.99 upper deck inserts that have a gold out of 25 parallel. There's one called Aerodynamics. There's another one, I think, Intensity or something. I don't know. The names are escaping me, but there's some really cool Jordans from the tail end of the 90s. The 98.99 upper deck stuff, the 99-2000 upper deck stuff, really pretty cards, cool die cuts, gold parallels, number to 25, number to 100, number to 50, that are much cheaper than their comparative serial numbered counterparts, also from the 90s. Look great. I've looked at a few of those. I definitely have. There's some really, really cool cards just kind of flying under the mainstream market's radar in that category.
Chris, do you almost feel sort of like you have this new wind beneath your wings in the hobby right now? Because now it's like now you have 2 million worth of cardboard equity that you can do whatever you want with, because you didn't have to give it up for that. And now maybe 2 mil was beyond what you were willing to go, but let's say whatever that number is, if it's even close to that, it's a big number. Do you kind of feel like the world has opened up to you, or you're just super focused on what you're looking for and you're not looking for any new lanes?
Yeah, I'm not looking to switch up. It was like chipping away at rock, or like when you shovel and like the first layer of dirt is easy to get out, but then when you start getting a little bit closer to the crust of the earth or whatever, like you ain't moving that rock at all. Like that's how my PC is. Like there's some like dirt on the top that I can shovel off, but like if I get it a little bit deeper, it's not going anywhere. So I wasn't really planning. I'm quite content with the way the collection has developed right now. But my collection is always evolving. It's a living document. It's a breathing document. So.
It's I think we've all gone through that, where there's a bit of dirt on top, but we've all made big moves on this screen right now. Joe with the Curry and a couple of Jackies after that. Josh with his MJ Essential Credentials last year. Me with the Joe Jackson. I mean, we've all gone through some of these processes where it's like, I don't have much of that dirt left on top that I'm willing to move. If I had to, I could probably find some, but I just love too many cards. Okay, I want to run through some comments, and then I want to hear what topic you might have brought, Chris. And then NL918 has been putting some great comments in the chat. We're going to save them for another night, NL. I'm going to read them now just so people know it's coming. I'm going to save these. He says, would love to hear everyone's thoughts on manufactured rarity versus true rarity. I was all in on manufactured rarity, but I find myself now actually looking for true rarity items, even if other categories. He goes on to say, I love deep diving into categories where things weren't really made to collect like more modern cards are. I'm not sure items that are made to be collectible can hold value long-term versus those that aren't. I think that's a great topic. We've talked about it before. We can talk about it again. NL goes on to say, I'm like Josh. I move quickly and sometimes with regret, but rarely. BWS said, raise your hand if you were concerned for Hoj going all in on that card. I could raise my hand. Not concerned. I just didn't love the move for him. Mike Petty in the house says, I feel like Hoj should have had a bigger sack and went all in.
That's good. I love that.
Mike Petty has confirmed he will be attending my book signing at Burbank Sports Cards on Tuesday. I can't wait to see you there, Mr. Mike Petty. And I'm glad to see you in the chat. We heard you're out tonight. I'm glad you made it here. Hobby Champ says, for sure, I was rooting for Chris to acquire that card. I think like I was rooting for him to acquire it too, at a much lower cost, which was just impossible. Midlife Greg says, I felt invested as I had such a rooting interest as well. Yeah, that's exactly my thought as well. Petty says, I could find other things to spend $2 million on. That card had no color. Save it for refraction.
Save it for a refraction. I love it.
Save it for refraction. BW says, the only sense that, any sense that the buyer had watched your content, Chris? Did you drive up the price? If so, should you get a cut? What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
No. It went right at the guide price. Yeah.
At the estimate.
At Heritage's estimate. Yeah.
Estimated price. Okay. Yeah. Well, they don't always hit estimate though, right? Like that was
no, they don't. The purple one didn't.
Yeah.
And I talked about that one quite a bit too. So I don't think I had any impact whatsoever. I might have even scared people off, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Well, we probably won't know unless they come forward. And then another great comment for a topic that we don't have time for tonight, but Skeppy says, if you let go of cards to acquire a card, what percentage of the collection must stay before the collection needs to be realigned? I'm going to save that comment, Skeppy, and the two from NL 918 and use those in the future. Before we move on to Chris's topic, because we still have about 15 minutes plus overtime. When I scheduled tonight, we had more guests than usual. I pushed Josh and Chris back by 15 minutes from the usual, thinking that, we're going to go into overtime, which we still likely will and can. Overtime means past, I guess, what is that? 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. But with that, Chris, unless Josh or Joe have any comments on anything else before we do switch it up. No? Okay, Chris, what topic did you have in mind? I love that you brought one.
All right. Well, I brought like 6, but this is the one that I came up with as I was listening to the show, and it was inspired by Greg. And I was listening to Greg, and I was seeing him show off some of these 90s refractors that he had picked up and giving credit to some of the content creators that he'd been watching and that he had been talking with and learning about these cards from, and also thinking about sort of what as Jason was mentioning. I love when he said he said something along the lines of 80 to 90% of this hobby, the fun that he has in the hobby is doing the research and contemplating and thinking. And he has a great website too that maybe you guys will talk about on some future occasion. It's called thehobbyscore.com. That I first learned about.
Jason Professor Sports Cards?
Yeah. He's got a website called thehobbyscore.com. I've had the privilege of going on his show once before, and he just kind of mentioned it. And I was like, dude, this is really cool. And he's still developing it and stuff. So but it's out there. And so this website, it features some of the research that he's done. And research is just, there it is. Yeah, it's a really cool piece of content and an app.
Card ladder
together. Yeah, right. Hey, that's a nice looking ad. But he's done a really nice job building this, and sort of he puts together different rookie offerings for different key players, and he gives information on the athletes themselves. And he tries to, formulate a ranking system and stuff. And I just love stuff. I just love that. Whether I'm watching sports and I'm trying to compare players, whether I'm looking at collecting and I'm trying to compare cards and make decisions under constraints, this is a very similar type of project. So it's a really cool thing. And so this all kind of bleeds into the topic that I brought tonight, which is this, quite simply. And Jeremy, you were echoing this theme earlier, but you've echoed it for months and months. And in fact, for years even, I've sort of heard you make comments on the side sort of about how it's too bad that like influencer has a negative connotation because it can have a very positive result. That kind of ties into my topic too. But my topic is this: are we now in the era of learning from other collectors? Are we in that era right now? And I can tell you that I feel like I am. But the reason why I feel like I am is because I've always been a big researcher, but like that's really ratcheted up over the last year or two into wanting to research and learn so much about specific cards, specific sets, and to go broad and to go deep at the same time. And then I find that the more I do that, the more I'm attracted to everything that other collectors post. Like if I see a 5-paragraph essay under some guy's card post on Instagram and it's explaining how this card is the first instance of such and such, and this player is significant to him for this reason and that reason, and he'd looked for the card for this long, and this set is notorious for these things and other things. And I've never wanted to devour content like that more than I want to devour it right now. And there's, just to give a random example, I don't know this gentleman. I hope he doesn't mind that I'm going to shout out his Instagram page. There's a brand new, or a fairly new Instagram page that I found within the last few months that is dedicated to Ken Griffey Jr. collecting. And this guy's rolling out one of the most impressive 90s and 2000s baseball collections that I've ever seen. And every post is a novella that goes into great depth about the set and where it sits historically and why it matters to Griffey and why it matters to baseball collecting and what it means for the era. And I just read one of his most recent posts today. I just thought it was fantastic. And I can feel my brain firing and learning as I read things like that. And that's going to inspire me to continue thinking and working in advancing my own collection. So that's the question that I turn to the panel. Do you agree with me? Are you like me right now that we are truly in the era of learning from other collectors?
Well, thank you for that well thought out topic, Chris. I mean, to me, yes, like I don't. Yes, okay, Joe, what do you think? Because like there's not much more to say. Like, yeah, 100%, absolutely, and not. We're not in the era. I don't feel like we're in the era of learning and being influenced by the hobby. By that I mean all hobbyists. Like, I'm not influenced by the content that goes and shows the case hit culture. That does not influence. I don't learn from that kind of content. I learn from the same content that you are learning from. And I'm inspired by it as well. And I get to do that as well. People are always reaching out to me, asking me, what is this all about? What is that? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I get to help people understand things as well that I'm an expert in. And I go to other people to teach me about things that they are an expert in. It's invaluable. Luckily, the technology state of the world we're in today has enabled all of this. But the simple answer and quick answer to me, Chris, is 100% yes, absolutely. And I'm so grateful for it. As we said earlier, I buy cards, I collect things because there's people out there that have no idea that they've influenced me, that they have had an impact on my collecting and what I like. And some of them are right here on. You're all a part of that. Actually, all of you have had an impact on me collecting, as well as many people in the chat. So enough from me. Let's go to Joe and get your thoughts on this topic from Chris, and we'll go to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a simple question, and maybe it is, but it sends my brain in a lot of directions. But yes, I mean, I think we can say that. But learning from anyone involves a disposition that you're open to learning, right? Like kind of a growth mindset. And so, part of the question involves like, is the hobby there yet? Like, are people truly approaching listening and learning from others with that sincerity of like, maybe I could adjust my thinking on something? And I'm not always sure, like if I approach the question from that perspective, I'm not always sure people are as growth mindset. But for me, myself, like that is actually one of the most compelling aspects of the hobby, is that there's no way you can know everything. It's like, it's an ocean, right? It's like this vast ocean, and we're on land, and land's like 30% of the world. And I wouldn't even operate, it's like maybe we're lucky enough to know one continent, but then there's the ocean, and the ocean is so far reaching and wide that there's always going to be things that you don't know, if, depending on how broad you set your sights. So I think that it's exciting to acknowledge that there's a ton you don't know. And then it just becomes kind of, one, your disposition, and two, the amount of time you have, because lately I've just been subsumed in content. Like I can't keep up with it all. And I'm open to learning, but there's only so much I can learn in any given moment. So yes. And, that's part of why I appreciate, like, there are definitely content creators who approach it more in an informative way. I think about Orlando, Tony's really good at this. They present information that allows you to understand a certain area or strata of the hobby. And then there's content creators that are doing other stuff. So yeah, in short, yes, but it brings up a lot of other questions for me.
Good stuff. Yeah. I like the ocean analogy. It really is. It's impossible to learn everything. Josh, where do you fall on the topic? Where are you learning things?
I think I've always been learning stuff from other collectors and, people I meet in the hobby, either through, message boards or shows. I don't really watch a lot of any hobby content besides this show, but, like I've been on message boards for, a long time. And I know people from shows that I've seen at shows for 20 years. So I'm always learning about stuff in this hobby. Like Joe said, there's so much to learn, something every day.
Absolutely. And, Skeppy has a great comment here. He says, are we also in the era of maybe too much information and influence? Maybe the trick is developing the right filter for what you want to learn. We collect cards, but we also collect voices that we listen to and that we value. And sometimes there can be too much of it out there. Then the other thing, like I like to learn about cards, but sometimes I can be a little bit reckless, like you, Josh, where if it's not a lot of money, I can go and just buy a bunch of things and kind of do the learning after, maybe, kind of buy them. What are you shaking your head at, Josh?
The more expensive, the better. That makes it more exciting.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But I will if I can, stomach it, I'm willing to take sort of a risk, because I love the way something really looks. I love the look of the card. I like the players, the subject matter and all that. And then maybe it's like, there's also the time where I don't want to learn. Maybe I don't want to know everything about it, because there might be something I don't like that's going to, bias me to not want to go down that lane. And I'd really like to. It's kind of the same mindset I have. And this is maybe it's not the right one, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But sometimes I don't care what the comp is. I don't want to know comp, because I don't want the comp to steer me away from buying the card. I don't want to see that the last comp is $80 when this guy wants 125, and I'm not going to be able to buy it when I really want the card, but I'm anchored to a comp that I don't even care about, and I don't know who bought it or who sold it. Like, sort of a similar sort of a phenomenon that goes on in my head a little bit. So back to you, Chris. I know you got some notes on this based on what you've seen and heard.
Yeah. So how about the other side of the coin? And I love Joe put his finger on where I was going with it too, which is, as a community, are we there? I can certainly speak that I'm more receptive to fellow collectors research than ever before, but the reason why is because I've refined my ability to research card sets, sports history, and so forth quite a bit over the last however many years. And so it's sort of like a game recognized game thing. Like, I understand what they're doing because I do it myself too. And so when I see somebody else practicing a similar approach, I get really excited that there's something I can learn from them. But the other side of the coin is, what about teaching? All of us as content creators on the screen, but also as people who post to Instagram, who post to social media, we share our cards. Jeremy, when I was with you at the West Coast Card Show and you taught me about the pile of cards that you had got, and you sort of walked me through different elements of what made them special and important, and you taught me about a whole era of cards that I was fairly ignorant about, which is 2000s game-worn Hall of Fame baseball players and some of the sets that those came from. And I loved learning about that. I could listen to hours of content like that. This is why I love Shoebox Legends, Shane's YouTube channel, is because he just teaches you about so many different cards that he collects. Like, he has a great video from a week or two ago about that Stanley Cup card that Jeremy, I first learned about from you. And he has like a 15-minute video on it or whatever on just that card. It's great. It's really great stuff. So now the other side of the coin is all of us as teachers or as people who can share our research and share what we've learned. Is it the era of sharing, or is it the era of playing it close to the chest and keeping an edge? How do you toe that line?
Well, everyone has a platform now. There's no barrier to entry to sharing knowledge. None. You need a phone. That's your barrier to entry. You need a phone. That's it. So it is the era of sharing knowledge to the extent that people want to. I met with a listener just a couple days ago here in my StreamYard meeting room, just privately, and was talking about how to kind of get more community involved. And I said, don't just post a picture of a card, share a couple paragraphs. He already had some. He thought they were too long. I looked at them, I'm like, no, these aren't too long. There's something there, but you could go longer if you want. He's like, I didn't know. I said, you could go longer. Like, he doesn't have under 50 followers, but he's going to get more because he wants to be a part of it and he wants to tell stories, and he's got a cool angle to his collection. So anyone can have a platform and share. I think we are in that era. And, you talked about those 2000s cards that I showed you. I'm still learning about them, Chris. The other night, like I do a lot of work on the Hobby Spectrum project, like all the time. And a couple nights ago, literally 2 nights ago, I should have been working on that. But instead I was on ComC going through all these different, like trying to understand the full menu of these sets and cards that are available from Donruss Playoff and Upper Deck and Fleer, and try to understand the scope of availability. What is really out there? Because I didn't have a great idea. I did take a bit of a leap of faith with that stack of cards, but luckily the vendor was a wealth of knowledge and took the time to explain to me. So that was my due diligence, was from the vendor, who wasn't, sure, he wanted to sell cards, but this guy seemed like he was not just there to get the sale. He was happy he was passionate about them, and I could sense that. So I went down that rabbit hole, Chris, for 3 hours the other night on ComC, adding cards to my watch list, trying to, compare players, because it's easy to do on ComC, where you can search for any player, find the card, go to the set, drill down. It's like, anyway, there's always things to learn. And so I'm going to go off on a tangent if I don't stop myself there and go back to you, and then I'll let you sort of respond, and we can go to Joe and Josh for any more commentary on that, Chris.
No, it's great. That's literally that's the essence of everything. I feel like we are in the early goings of a movement that is, and maybe this is just my bias. There's always a tendency I have, maybe all of us have, I certainly have it, to whereas like what I'm experiencing, I'm projecting that onto the whole hobby. Like, if I'm going through this evolution, then everybody else must be too. And maybe they're not. But I do have this strong urge from my own trajectory and just sort of looking around and seeing things, that we are on the precipice or even already in the era of sharing knowledge and taking knowledge from each other and developing research and spending 3 hours on ComC or spending 3 hours on trading card database or spending 3 hours diving through a sales history and making spreadsheets and figuring out what's out there and organizing a bit more. I just feel like that's where we are.
I have to call out one piece of knowledge that I would advise everybody to completely ignore. So our good buddy MK Sports Cards, who you guys would know from Instagram, he put a post up yesterday. He put a post up the other day about his Tom Brady Prism silver card in a PSA 8 MC miscut holder, kind of going. He was I don't want to say, he was discussing the rarity of the qualified modern card. Some knowledge, guys, you have to just be, because MK does have a lot of knowledge and he shares a lot of his knowledge on his Instagram story. But sometimes you have to, and I know he will listen to this. He might be watching right now. So I'm well aware that he's a friend. But my point is, sometimes you have to have a critical eye on some of the things that you're hearing and learning. And as much as you respect and like anyone whose voice you listen to, you have to take it with a grain of salt sometimes and make sure that it does make sense to you. So I just wanted to share that, because when I thought about that, and we had a bit of fun with it in the chat. I think my response to his comment in our chat was something like, "Is there a contest for worst hobby take of the day and I didn't hear about it," or something like that? So
you have to love MK, because here's why. He will take the logic to its absolute extreme and test every boundary. And he will give it a good faith test. And his theory there is that this is an era with a lot of plastic holders and a lot of cards printed. And how do I find rarity in that era when the parallels are sky-high prices and there's a million copies at the base? And one of the ways that collectors have been adding rarity in ultra modern, taking a cue from earlier eras like vintage and pre-war, is the in-person autograph, using that as a way to add rarity. But MK was drawing on prior eras where the error card was seen as one of the few ways that rarity can emerge on a particular copy of a card as well. Now he's using a little bit of poetic license because it's not quite an error card. Or at least I don't know. That's open to debate. Maybe.
Well, remember how I put it I said it's not an error card. It's poor workmanship.
Right. So there's a debate to be had there, which is very interesting. I'm sure he would enjoy that debate. But yeah. But that's sort of the idea here, is that finding cards that have qualifiers is extremely rare because the manufacturing quality generally is sufficiently high that there aren't miscuts. There aren't cards meriting the OC designation, but when you do find one, that's a lane of rarity. So he's like, there takes a lot of courage and courage and conviction and creative thought to land in a lane like that.
So diplomatic, Chris.
I love the zag. I love a good zag. I mean, that's like one of the craziest zags ever.
You like the mental challenge of, because it is something worth considering. I'm not saying it's complete rubbish to consider. I think the take is rubbish, but I think it's still worth considering. Sure, that there might be something there. Yeah, Josh, what do you think about a modern miscut card in a PSA slab with a qualifier being valuable or exciting because it's rare, because it has an which is funny, and I think this one had the MC, the miscut qualifier.
I don't think about it at all. Can I go back to Chris's statement about sharing? I don't mean to blow you off. I just don't.
No, we're done with that. Go ahead.
All right. About community and sharing, knowledge. So if we're in a community, and let's just say we're building community, sports card hobby, you can't just take, right? You got to give. So if you're part of this community and you do research or you do something, you uncover information, you have an obligation to share it with everyone else if you want to be part of a community. Otherwise, you don't. You just want to take. And that's okay, too. But I think as members of the community, you have an obligation to share knowledge with everyone else because it is so easy. All you need is a phone. You're right. All you need is a phone and internet connection, and just say, here's what I learned. So that's my take on that.
How about you, Joe? Thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, a lot. The first thought is like there's discrete knowledge, and then there's knowledge that is born of systems of thinking or ways of thinking, processes that lead you to outcomes or conclusions. So like when Chris was going through his process of laying, I don't know, it was like the 90 PMG reds over here, or the Jordan Platinum 1 of 1 over here. Like for him, it was like, yeah, I want this 1 of 1. That's not what my brain was doing. My brain was like, I'll take the 90 PMG reds. So some of this is the way that you approach questions, and I love seeing that modeled. I may not get the same answer as someone else, but if I'm gaining the skills or the tools to approach any number of questions, like I can take that to another experiment or kind of thought experiment or question that I have. And I've learned a lot of that. I mean, even going back to, House of Jordans, when Josh, Christina, and Chris would sort of talk about, like, this is when I first started to learn like how you could maybe kind of extrapolate from one card area into another, and you start to kind of create these comparisons and build sort of some ratios and or theories and comparison points that allow you to feel more and more safe as you wade out into the waters, the uncharted waters of how evaluation might be considered. And this ties a little bit into what Chris mentioned earlier, or asked, I guess, which was, are we also in a time where maybe keeping things close to the chest is good? And I've frequently, I'm like, Greg, don't talk about the pirate card. Greg, don't talk about the Isaac Murphy. Don't talk about it. Like, at least let me get one before you talk about it. And that's whatever. I mean, that's just me being kind of a little fearful that if the word gets out, it might spike in value. And I think a lot of us share that, with prospects, with certain sets that maybe we suddenly fancy more, or we look at pop counts and we suddenly realize, like, oh my God, there's a gold mine here. But again, that's you can find those things if you start to develop your own sort of heuristic approach to assessing, like, what is valuable to you. And then you don't need the discrete data. You just need some time and exposure. Exposure is nice. Like, you kind of got to know what's out there to even think to research it. But yeah, I mean, I kind of harp about this with my students. It's like, no, I don't really actually care. Yeah, I want you to know Romeo and Juliet, but I actually want you to use your brain in thinking about these things and show me that you can start to construct an argument and support it with data. So the skills that we take away from learning from people, and that was what was so impressive, Chris, with your latest drop, was just like allowing us to see your brain at work, not so much what you thought, because I didn't agree always with your with your own evaluation, but I definitely was won over by your analysis and your systemic way of thinking about it, and kind of going further and further and further along the path of constructing an equation almost of what was valuable and how valuable it was to you.
Response, Chris? Anything?
Yeah, that's my model for making my podcast, is that when I listen to hobby content, when I'm really enjoying it is when it's giving me ideas for my own stuff. And so that's the model that I try to replicate as a content creator myself, is Joe drew the distinction between discrete knowledge versus systems of thinking. And whether or not, and I love to issue caveats all the time, I think it's important to do that. Like, whether or not you agree with my conclusion, I'm going to try to introduce a system of thinking that might hopefully inspire a few people to come up with their own system of thinking. And if that is what happens, then sometimes some of those people even like show up in the comments or they'll message me, and we'll start, and it just creates this nonstop loop of dialogue, and we build off of each other. And that's the peak of hobby content for me.
Agreed. Hobby content is peaking. I would say there's and it's not just on YouTube, it's everywhere. Hobby knowledge is peaking too. So many more voices out there, and like
I think it is.
It is. But and the comment, we've seen a couple comments in the chat where people have said, we've always learned from other collectors. Absolutely. That's where the learning comes from. It's always from other collectors. How else are you really going to learn? But I think maybe from the enterprises within the hobby, but I think we like to learn from fellow collectors more than enterprises. At least I think I feel that. I don't know if that's okay. You're not. I'm getting one nod to sort of validate that kind of sudden thought I had. But
can I throw out another name that is like, I think he's pushing this movement forward. He's advancing the ball in this domain, and he's doing it in a very bold, noticeable fashion. It's the reels that Adam makes, the Reel 27 guy, where like the central focus of those reels, granted they're marketing a card or they're telling a viral story, but they're also teaching me about a set or about something that happened in history or about how sentiment shifted or about one thing or the other. And I think that content is sort of emblematic of where we're headed. And he is somebody who's carrying that ball, moving that ball forward too.
Yeah, I mean, he does a great job. Even if it's sponsored content, he is so passionate about it, and he takes he wants to teach. Every reel is teaching. So I agree, Chris. It's he does an absolute great job with his reels.
And I like how he sort of leads us to, will this, like it invites you to consider, like he lays it all out, but then there's still going to be the closing price, right? That we get to look at. And that's kind of what you mentioned in your, assessment after the fact of the platinum. It's like, what can we learn from where this closed? Like somebody else, probably, unless they just have a ton of money and it doesn't matter, but someone else is probably conducting their own experiences in their own card lab and considering, like, how do I get to the value where I can feel comfortable laying this out? And then, like Adam, he'll do that, and he'll throw a few comps out or a couple reckonings where cards might land in relation to this, in relation to that, and then it's like, we'll see on Sunday night. And that's one of the fun things that we all get to experience, even if it's not a card you're interested in, sort of assessing where it's going to go and what the market has spoken, right? Like, that's Sunday night, Saturday night, whatever night.
All right, guys, we're well into overtime here. I think we're good to sort of wrap this up. I will be at Burbank Sports Cards on Tuesday for a book signing of Pops and Comps, and I will then be that's from 12 to 3. I will then be at the Laker game that night. First time getting to see LeBron, Luka.
Have you notified the paparazzi? Well, I guess they know now.
Oh no, they know. I'm already got my disguise working up and everything. Yeah, I'm
get that mustache.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see these guys play, and Anthony Edwards, and just to be at a game at Crypto.com Arena will be a lot of fun. So
that's a good one. That's a good matchup.
And I'm excited to go to the new Burbank Sports Cards location. I have not yet been there, so this will be my first time, and I will be I'll probably be there for about 4.5 to 5 hours altogether. Because I want to look around and see every card on display, as well as see people that are coming. So I'm excited. I'm excited to do that. And just a reminder, these shows, these live streams are available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you do get your podcasts. I want to let people, I always forget to say that at the end of the show, but that is the case as well, everybody. Pops and Comps available on Anaheim, on Amazon, Hobby Spectrum. You can, and Chris, I'm actually going to go right now and look at how you added stuff to your, there it is. There it is. I'm going to share the screen, guys. Here's Chris's new profile card on the Hobby Spectrum. He added Michael Jordan, Nikola Jokic, Mahomes, Luka, and Christian McCaffrey, basketball and football, and he's got his links to several platforms. You can do that now, and haven't really been pushing that out there or even really talking about it on Instagram and that yet. We're still working on a couple more changes to that, and then we will. And the goal is to take the gate off the front of the site. I think March 16th is the target date. Not for sure we'll meet that, but we should pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. But Chris, did you enjoy doing that? I noticed you said only 5. That was kind of just a default thing. But
I need more than 5. I need like 7.
So do I need more than 5 too. I had to cut some. I collect like 30 players. So yeah. Rock Latex says, a disguise for a 6'6" man. Maybe they will think it's a former player. Oh, there you go. Maybe. Yeah. You bet, Greg. Thanks for joining. Were you going to say something there, Chris? Sorry.
Have you seen LeBron or Luka in person before?
I don't think I've ever seen them in person. Never mind playing. No, not playing and not in person. No.
So you're going to get to see like 3 of the marquee players of this decade, and LeBron for the previous, and Ant-Man. And then, I don't know, we were just talking about Adam. He's a big Gobert guy. Gobert's a pretty historic player too. 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I mean, you're going to get to see some pretty historic players all on the same court.
Well, dude, that's why I'm like, I never saw Michael Jordan play. I've only been to, I think, 1 or 2 NBA games in my whole life. One was in Vancouver. I'd have to really think about the other one. It would have been 25 years ago. But no, to be able to see LeBron play in person, love him or hate him, to be able to see him play live before he retires, I feel like we're running out of chances. So I'm sneaking one in here. I'm pretty excited about that. Luka, very excited to see Luka play, and Anthony Edwards. Absolutely. Super, super pumped. Jeremy from California, a lot of questions on the Hobby Spectrum, but wow, that thing really is thorough. Thank you, Jeremy from California. Yeah, it is meant to be thorough for sure. Situational, saw LeBron debut at United Center. That's awesome. Yankees fan, thank you so much. Says it's a great arena. JL, have fun. I will. I appreciate that very much. Christy needs to have like 10 players. All right, we'll go to 10. I think that's an easy fix on the Hobby Spectrum. Thank you, Midlife, Greg, everybody, for being here tonight. Hey, it's great to have Chris back. Josh, it's great to have you back too, Josh. Great to have you back, buddy. But Chris was gone for 2 weeks. Again, were you on the IR, the DL? What were you on?
Let's see. Well, IR means you have to miss like 4 weeks in football.
So you're maybe
I was just
out.
He's on the public list. Physically able to perform.
We can just tell, brother, you benched me, Jeremy. You said, you know what? Come back in 2 weeks, buddy. We've had enough of you.
Yeah.
We'll get you back.
Well, it's good to have you back. It was good to have Joe, Josh. Great to have Greg on the show. And we had Jason, the sports car professor, debuting on the show tonight. We'll get him back again. He was great to have on. And, when you watch him, he's got a bit, similar, but a bit of a different persona on his channel, but very similar. He doesn't seem to change much, which is great. But we'll get him back as well. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We're good to wrap it up. All right. Well, listen, today is, at least where I am, it is still March the 7th, here on March the 7th, 2026 for Sports Cards Live for the Hobby. This episode is now
over.
And with that, good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.